I got up for the game. I was there. I was ready to do it. It got pushed back an hour, so it wasn't going to finish till like 4:30, maybe later if it went to extra time. And I had to get up at 7 a.m. today. I had absolutely no option, and I have no option of sleeping through the day because I had a bunch of stuff to do for my daughter. So unfortunately, I had to make the decision to go to bed. So I can't say I bounced out of bed, but I did wake up and watch the game immediately in bed before checking my phone. And yeah, it really set me up for the day, and it set me up for some competitive siege as well. It just got me in that right mindset, and we're going to see some here between G2 and Falcons. We're on Consulate. We've got our bans come through. It's going to be Snake and Dorkaby. So we're going to have the Intel ops taken away by Falcons. You know, very understandable, very good picks. Both super power. We've seen the recent change to Dorkaby where there's a 7-second cooldown between her calls. You and I have discussed this at length. There's particularly at Pro League, I think, you know, what I was saying was valid. We had more than 7 seconds generally between calls anyway. So I don't think it will have had a big effect on pro play particularly. So I think, yeah, definitely plenty of value in taking that Dorkaby away still. But interestingly, if we look at Consulate, that's the map these two played on back in play day 4 of stage 1, and G2, they won 7-4.
Did ChatGPT help you, Tim?
10 seconds to insertion.
No, not at all.
With writing that sorry excuse for a reason, a justification for missing out on such great
honestly,
victory?
To be fair, I fully believe that I made a sacrifice for everybody else there. Because if I'd have stayed up and watched it, it'd have been a boring match and Mexico would have won 1-0. But because I went to bed and missed it, it was one of the greatest World Cup games of all time, whether you're an England fan or a neutral. It was a brilliant game. I don't think anybody can deny that.
And now,
you're welcome.
the big
You're all
question
welcome.
is, does this become one of the best siege games? It's
so.
two of the most well-known teams. Arguably, I'd say the two in terms of following and popularity. So it certainly adds up to something. That big question on our minds is, will we see Falcons perform at the level required, though, to be able to bring down G2? We're starting things off with Alamau working his way down through Secret, in towards Server, and across. So rather than going in for the main breach, they'll look for the verticals. They'll look to get the charge on this side with Doki backing him up. We've seen this, like, it's bread and butter at this point. Tim having a shield and then a gunner coming up alongside them, looking to capitalize on the attention they're drawing. That is going to force players on the side of Falcons back in towards site.
Alamau just dishing out the intel there. We saw the yellow ping, and him and Doki have managed to progress far enough forward. Shaiko's in support on the ace as well, so they'll start getting this wall breach. They know that there's one on the opposite side. I love this. They've gone the wrong way. It was so close. I love the play. Get the Selma on the wall, force the Bandit to stay, use the Maverick, and they just on a 50-50 look the wrong side. Doki tried to get back onto his main weapon and check the other corner, but by that point, Brede had been able to scamper away. Here is the opener though. Doki manages to get Leakafak as he tries to rotate back into sight down Spiral. Great start for G2, 5 versus 4.
Yes, and they've done so in really quick time as well. I thought, like, honestly, Tim, you could have told me that someone had just, like, smashed your favourite China plate then without you reacting about that breach going up. But obviously it didn't open the way that they need. It has meant that for now, at least, Falcons are dug in that little bit deeper, but they are on a 5 versus 4. G2 with the shield on side. Plenty of nades and utility still to make use of when pushing their way forward here. They're not at all in any rush to try and get this one done. They know they've got buckets of time and not a whole lot left to do in this round.
You can tell there, Doki, not the usual Maverick. A little bit messy on the wall, but it gets the lines of sight that they need. Nitro comes out, does no damage. Shaiko picks up Brede. 4 versus 3. Diffuser can be collected as Shaiko goes round and gets himself into yellow now. He can hold down that door from the pillar and just prevent anybody coming back in, which he does. Triple as he finds Solotov. 3v1, 30 seconds left to go. Shaiko planting, but won't have time as Benja picks up the last. It's going to be G2 taking round 1 with a very nice attack of basement.
This is one thing G2 have done ridiculously well all stage is attack. They're very, very organized. Them and Virtus Pro, I think, have looked so exciting to watch. How they use shields to draw attention, how they still move forward at a very good pace, how they tend to just flood in together when it comes to the execute and leave the opposite side with very little to do. Not once during that round, it looked like G2 were starting to get a little bit antsy, a little bit wary that they were running out on time. Everything went according to plan, down to how they dealt with the flank, down to how they dodged away from the C4, down to how they had Alamau consistently pressuring players and letting the rest of his team team pick up kills, down to, of course, Shoko walking out with a 3K. Just a perfect round from them. Zero complaints. And Falcons, dare I say to this, a similar problem we've had with them in previous weeks when we've spoken about this. Solotov and Likifak have been playing as their go-to entries, always wanting to be the first ones to take engagements, but they don't do it together, which leads to the sort of situation you just saw. A perfect read into Likifak, a freebie for Doki, G2 unbothered in round 1.
So historically here on Consulate, Falcons have actually got a really good record. They're 4-1 and the defensive win rate is 74%. So they are looking for a strong start to this. You know, make no mistake in that. Although this is G2's map pick, and you could be forgiven for thinking, well, you know, G2 are obviously chosen here. They want to come here. They want to play. G2's attacking win rate 42% on Consulate. So yeah, definitely, you know, again, like I said at the beginning, the numbers always seem to stack up on the side of Falcons in this matchup, but G2 certainly carrying form. And as I always say, winning is a habit, and it's going to be a habit that G2 look to continue as Shiko picks up his 4th kill in the game, takes down Likifak, 5 versus 4.
Absolutely. Well, that's the start again when Likifak's picked up as the entry because he's the one trying to make things happen. But I come back to that prior point. He's often doing so alone. And G2 are just so good at understanding when they need to get control of certain parts of the map. And if there's a roamer there, as there was just now, it becomes all too easy for them. So, as you say, once again, Falcons are in a 4 versus 5. And G2 is very, very happy to keep on bringing the weight, crushing down around them as the round wears on. Solotov being shipped pretty low here. Not forgetting that it's he and Yus is currently dancing around upstairs. And G2 know that's what they want to get done first. They want to force these players back. So you've got a track coming on towards June to make sure he's definitely downstairs. Who's got a C4 that he's already tried to make use of. It's worth noting. One still available to Brede. In stage 1 has been our top C4 enjoyer. We did the maths yesterday. He has got the most C4 kills of any player in EML throughout stage 1. And I can imagine this round, well, he'll be looking to try and find another because, my God, do his team need it to equalise the scoring.
I think Alamo just aware of a player in behind long desk up on the top floor. The track comes in. That suggests, yes, there was some communication there, and he's just asked Doki to bring in that track and clear out that position. That's exactly what's going to happen. But G2, even though they've got that entry kill, I feel they are struggling to get themselves established here. Oh, that is a missed opportunity for Doom. You have to be winning those. If he gets that, takes down Benja, brings it back to 4v4, you start thinking, right, G2 might actually struggle here. But 5 versus 3 now, they can start to get moving across this top floor. Next track comes in. This time it's going to be onto the Solace of Solotov. He is low health as well. He really doesn't want to be taking a fight here. Needs to be careful. Going up against an upside down rappel. It's always going to be tough.
Ooh, and uses of the reverse, gets rid of stomping as well. Not bad at all. Now being pushed onto, Dolphin behind him. Lucky not to get swung onto at the same time as that went off, but just gets himself alive. Shiko squaring up again for a fight on towards his old teammate. The second time in a row now that he's got Solotov, just by dropping his shoulder a little bit, going into the crouch and picking up a kill into Solotov as he rounds. Last one was at the bottom of yellow when he was sat on yellow pillar himself, making it look easy. And the cross from Benja on towards Brede. Yusus, I know, is a bit of a clutch god. So with 15 seconds to play, it's doable, but you might be asking a little bit too much. Finds one, lines up the second, but no. Shiko is on one to date him. He wants to get to EWC, and he certainly ain't going to let his old team stand in the way.
The problem for users there was always the second and third kill. He was going to get a freebie because they had no idea where he was, but he was low health, and as soon as he gets that kill, he announces his location, and you're going to end up losing in a head-to-head fight against 2. This was a big mistake from Doom, I'm afraid, and I know it probably looks a bit harsh. It's a quick gunfight. These things happen a little bit. I don't think it was quite 50-50 because I don't think Benja actually knew that Doom was there initially, and that's why we saw him dip back into cover, but Doom has to pick up that kill there. 4 versus 4, maybe the round goes differently, but losing that is a big blow for them, though. When they find themselves 5 versus 3, then G2 able to really start just piling the pressure on. We saw 20 seconds later Falcons dropping back to site. They tried to leave Solotov up above, but he couldn't keep himself in the fight, and G2, yeah, just really taking advantage of that numbers situation that they had. So they go 2-0. Remember, I did say 74% defensive win rate for Falcons on Consulate. So far, 0% win rate against G2 on Consulate. Today, big problem for them.
And we spoke a little bit around the fact that G2 haven't managed to beat Falcons in a best-of series over the last year. And you might hear that and think, oh, well, they maybe played them once, Des. But no, they played them twice at EML finals back in December. They played them at Munich. Falcons won all of those series, and in fact played them back in the Stage 2 playoffs as well. It has been plain sailing, it's fair to say, for Falcons, but look back at the best one we've played in the middle of the stage so far, Tim. That was a 7-4 to G2 on this very map. So there's almost like somewhat of a risk, I'd say, by letting G2 go back here again. Granted, once you go into a best of 3, it is hard to ban away maps that you don't really want to play because you might have permabans you've got to deal with. You only get to ban away 2 before the other side gets to pick their map, and clearly G2 thought, well, we battered you 7-4 here once. I'm very confident we can do it again. And so far, well, they're showing that it might be a bit of a tide changer overall. Clearly, Shaiko was the key that has helped them turn that result upside down. As you alluded to, so far, yet to find a single round here. This could be a 3-0 start for G2 on the attacking half.
Bringing along the pulse this time, Falcons. So I think, you know, just recognising maybe they've been struggling for a little bit of intel. They've been surprised once or twice. And also, obviously, the site will play into that as well. Going this time to the top floor site will give more of an opportunity. And look at that. Benja walks in, and this time Doom is more than ready for the fight. He puts the Vector to good use, picks up his man, and that is going to be the first entry found for Falcons in this game. Dorky manages to find Doom in a late trade, but Leakerfact using that pulse scanner to get himself a nitro kill. How about that for some aggression? Dorky walks in and picks one up, but Falcons, their trade game has been great in round 3.
He's given his team a chance here. They can still try and get away with a plan or even potentially winning off the back of the round, but Shaiko, he smells blood, Tim. He's trying to push in deep here as well, expecting to find one on long desk, but there is no one there. But you can see the danger. You give an IGL, an incel operator, Tim, and they call everything. Leakerfact seeing both players. This going to be a free trade here. They're ready for the swing. Not quite able to collect him, but Shaiko is now dangerously low. 60 seconds to play with. There's a lot of time. They've got the diffuser back, Tim, and now Alamau could try and be a little bit cheeky here for a plan.
If Shaiko gets any more kills in this round, they're going to be ruined that missed opportunity again. There you go. He should have been dead. The plant goes down. It's 2v2. He can't get the last, but can Alamau mop it up? He's been on an unbelievable resurgence lately in terms of his numbers. He has been going massive. We're talking back to 2021. Alamau, can he hold on here? Yes. He finds Solotov. Does he get the second? He takes damage. He finds it. Alamau holds on in the 1v2. Brilliant from Shaiko and Alamau in the 2v3. And Falcons are going to be kicking themselves for another missed opportunity. Leakerfact has to find the kill onto Shaiko at the point where the opportunity is in front of him.
A heartbreaker as well, because they were in a 5v3, but then Doki, the fact that he manages to get himself in towards top Visa stairs in the first place is a bit like, huh? Like, we have this control. We're sat on Vita stairs. We've got a Chanker on site. He should be able to do this, but gets away with a freebie. The step in towards site was really clever as well. They probably hear that door is blocked off on the Falcon side and think, okay, they're not pushing in through there for now. We're okay. They're just keeping it blocked off. The fact that he opens it and gets the freebie onto the Chanker, Brede, I don't know how he didn't hear him, but that was really what unlocked the round from there and enabled Alamau to pull off that massive play. It started so well, Tim, but they're yet to find a single defensive round. And Falcons, I'm pretty sure at this point, are just thinking, oh no, not again.
Yeah, it's been really good from G2 so far, whether, you know, in control of the round.
Here, by the way.
I know.
Look how low he is.
Literally 1 HP and a dream there, but puts that DMR to great use, just picks up the pulse as he comes around the corner. And G2, whether in the lead or whether having to find a response and fight back from behind, they have proven over those first 3 rounds that they can do it, whatever the situation in front of them. So much so that we're going to see Falcons pull that tactical timeout. They've decided that they need to be having a chat. They've lost all 3 defensive sites on a map that they are historically 74% defensive win rate on. This is an absolute battering, and they need to turn it around right now. Right now. Round 4 has to be theirs.
I'll come back to what Alamau said in an interview during the stage where he said, you know, we actually quite like starting on attack. And I think back to some of the teams through Challenger League many years ago who said the same. Is like, but that confident in our attacking play that we'd rather start on the attack, get that out of the way, get ourselves warmed up and fired up. So we're not being a little bit slow on the defensive side. And you see how it's working absolute wonders for them. Of course, they didn't choose to start on the attack. G2 picked the map and Falcons therefore got to choose the side. But I guarantee you, G2 were not bothered in the slightest about having to start on the attack, given that's how they've chosen to play many of their games.
Round 4, it is going to be back down to the basement for Falcons. So what did we see from G2 last time? It was a push with Alamau on the Monte, down into Secret, and progress forward from there, open the wall from the rear side, got a couple of kills around Spiral, and G2 push forward. Shaco got a triple kill in the round, which helped as well, of course. That's going to change this time. They're just going to rush on in. They see an opportunity. Ooh. They managed to take down users on the mirror, but the Nitro hit its mark. Dorky is down but not out. Shaco, he's just covering at the minute. They're not going to get an opportunity, I don't think, to pick Dorky up. Oh no, he does manage to juice himself back up. No, it's going to be Benja on the finger. Gets him back on his feet, but Leakafak is, oh, that's not ideal. Stomping with the team kill in the middle, and G2 just getting a little bit ahead of themselves there. They thought they'd seen a gap. They went in aggressively, but Falcons, I'm not sure we're quite ready for it, but they certainly responded. Good round from them.
Yeah, I don't hate it as well, because we speak about this a lot. When a team takes attack timeout, you normally expect there's a reinforcement of fundamentals there. Like, right, play together, play off trades, talk to each other, communicate. What is the best way to undo all that mental preparation they're doing? Rush their pants off and be inside sight inside 20 seconds. If we didn't see Alamar going down to the C4, if we didn't see Shaco being domed at range, I think we're having a very different conversation right now. So there's another one where it came down to being somewhat close, but as you say, the team kill also didn't help towards the end. But I like at least the idea coming out from G2, even if it didn't result in a round win. Let's see how the 5th round goes.
Users must have been absolutely hammering that secondary gadget button to detonate that Nitro when he had the blitz in his face. He knows he's got no other hope in that fight, and he must have just been absolutely mashing the button, trying to detonate as quick as you can. And he did ultimately manage to get, and I think honestly that's the one of the round defining moments there. If Alamau survives that gunfight and is inside on the blitz, he could turn into a real wasp in the room, just, you know, going around as an absolute nuisance that they can't get rid of, and that's just taking constant attention. Maybe manages to get another kill on there inside. So yeah, big from users there to recognize this is my best opportunity to win this fight, and that's the one that I'm going to focus on. So it's 3-1, it's round 5. G2 continue on the attack for 2 more rounds, and Benja already has taken a ton of damage underneath. They're attacking top floor, and Benja's trying to open up some of those power spots so that Falcons can't play on in there, and looks like Falcons might have woken up here, Des.
Phone activated.
He still managed to get himself in underneath inside 20 seconds. He's gone a bit fast there, but this is the kind of style that G2 play. It can. I've said it about them so many times in the past. When things go right, they look like absolute geniuses. When they go wrong, they look like absolute morons, because they'll do things that are a little bit risky. Because they'll, I won't quite say cutting corners, but they know to move fast, and to be able to capitalize, they need to be able to take risks sometimes. And when it does work out, it's absolutely wonderful. And yes, he's taking some chip damage, but he's still alive. He can still fulfill the role here that the Buck needs to. So I wouldn't really read too much into 60-70 points of damage.
We'll see the next gunfight that he gets into. That'll give us a much more clear idea of how important that HP loss is going to be. Utility dealt with, so they can start pushing through from the admin side. Oh, Dorky absolutely deletes Solotov. I think he just had a sixth sense that somebody was through there. The mute jammer might have prevented the drones, but it didn't prevent Dorky just being aware. Rips the head off Solotov. That's the Valkyrie gone. G2 with another entry. Continues on, and that is 4 out of 5 for them so far today.
Yeah, Leakafak and Solotov having such a rough time, but look at what I said earlier on. They play individuals. They try and pull off a flank, and you won't get away with that against a team like G2. They're far too well drilled. They've got a lot of information, a lot of drones covering the map as well. They're going to know that you're coming, and they're going to make sure you lose out on that gunfight. And I really want to see them fix that early round play, because for Falcons, it's what's setting them up to lose in more often than not in the vast majority of them. Either way, 4 versus 4. They balance one back on towards Doki. Still winnable as we come towards that last 45, and Brede has got a lot of fire to play with.
Yeah, it's actually good stuff from Falcons, this. The fact that they've managed to get themselves largely back to site with still 4 left alive, Warden on the board, Tachanka still going, is not bad at all. I think Leakafak was just tight against the wall there, so he couldn't move in any further to get his leg out of trouble. Stomper manages to find users. Second kill of the game for him. It becomes a 4v1 as G2 have collapsed onto site, and I really thought Falcons had the manpower and the utility to hold on, but it doesn't look like it's going to be be the case. Shaiko was going for the plant, but didn't need to in the end. Stompin picks up the kill at long desk, and it is going to be G2 4-1. Falcons, essential round 6 coming up for them. They need a 4-2 half. They need this defense.
They're just making it look so easy right now, G2.
Really
like, they know everywhere that Falcons are going to run. They're winning every single gunfight they're stepping into. It's just too easy, isn't it? Like, look, you can't be missing out here. Equally, he has to know he's being shot at here, but you've got to be doing something a little bit more than what you're offering so far. I'm afraid Falcons, this will just carry on. 2 kills to Stompin without barely moving his feet towards the end as well. They do make it look easy, and it's why I can't get excited for Falcons. Even when there's like 30 seconds, 20 seconds on the clock, that's still all the time that G2 need to pull something off. Their pacing and management of the tempo of a round is just absolutely fantastic, and has been from round 1 all the way through to round 5.
Final defense coming up for Falcons then is going to be that mid-floor site. We saw them play it back in round 2. They actually switched the order in this second half, which is a little bit of a concern for me if I'm a Falcons fan, because I'm looking at this thinking maybe there's a little bit of a lack of confidence in this site, because previously we saw the rotation as basement and then piano and then top floor console. We saw that, like I said, we saw that kind of reversed in this one. It was basement, then console, top floor, and now it's going to be piano. So it just makes me ask the question, you know, was there a moment there in round 5 when they were picking the site where they said, no, we fancy top floor more here? So G2 could be in for a very good half if they're able to get this one won as well. I'd imagine it's going to be at least immediate top floor pressure, but I'm just looking at Benja here and not sure what the plan is, but he's right there next to the window, ready to hop on in. No, he's moved away now to front door, so not going to be anything too aggressive from G2.
Absolutely okay. Once again, Benja's still doing a lot of vertical work. You know, you've seen him multiple times now getting underneath on the book. We've seen him upstairs, holding off on the flank to make sure they couldn't get through the vertical hole. So while right now he's got himself focused on the ground floor, on the Twitch versus a book, I do think you'll still see him head upstairs and look to give that cover to make sure there's no one able to jump in and start causing damage from above when G2 look to go for an execute. That's often been his role. You know, the vertical player, I think back in the day when you look back at Benja, the go-to like nade and C4 guard. I think when they won SI, I referenced it before, he had 36 C4 and grenade kills. This person in second place with 18 was Brede, so double as many as the player in second place. He absolutely loves playing on the vertical, whether it's got explosives or not. So I think you'll again see that control being a big focus for G2 to start things out. They've got to force these top floor players away. Solitov finally gets himself an entry here, and it's Benja that falls down on main stairs.
I did wonder for a second there whether Solitov was going to give Benja an opportunity. His aim was just a little bit wide to begin with, but then he did manage to find the kill. Took quite a lot of damage along the way, and I mentioned that because Doom has just taken some on yellow stairs as well. Not quite as much, but that's 2 players on the side of Falcons that are just a little bit lower on health. The last time they got an entry kill was back in round 3, Doom onto Benja. They didn't go on to win the round. G2 were still able to overcome those odds.
But now kind of that settled moment where for one of the first times G2 find themselves down a man and the dust has settled somewhat. Need to get something. Here comes Stompin. Gets a freebie onto Leakyfax. Steps across towards site looking for the second, but I think used to seeing the mistake that Leakyfax made before and doesn't want to expose himself too much. On go the specs as the nades come on through. Yet to find anyone as Doom himself takes more damage, and Alamau has got the freebie. Suddenly alarm bells start ringing as G2 should be able to take over site here. Falcons yet again. They've given them an inch and G2 have taken a mile, Tim.
Doom manages to find a beauty onto the head of Alamau, but that's going to be all he can do as Stompin manages to grab a quad in the round. He'd been a little bit quiet, but he's walking up in round 6. I'll tell you what.
Just, wow.
Yeah, the king
like
has returned.
If you give them an inch, they will take a mile. Because it looked good for Falcons. They were in the right positions, but just when it matters, when G2 step in towards site, when they look for the gunfights, it all falls to tatters. I'm sure the studio have got a lot of thoughts. And guys, what did you make of that?
We do have a lot of thoughts about that because we seem to be very impressed by G2 so far. And I feel like especially if you look at what G2 are doing on the attack on this map, exactly.
Yeah, Consulate is our least played map in the entire map pool. Actually, I pulled some of the stats. Consulate worldwide is 37% attacker favored. And G2 on this map, so far this year, 54% on the attack, and they've just put an absolute masterclass out there. 5-1, Leo. It's been honestly incredible from them.
And for me, it's the way they do it. So if we look at actually Shaiko leading the charge on the side of G2, it's a frag fest. It's him winning gunfight upon gunfight upon gunfight. It starts on the first round, by the way. The strategy here is follow a Monty down a corridor in the middle of basement, in the middle of crossfires. Strategically, is that sound? No, not really. But Ace makes it like basically Shaiko winning every gunfight makes it work. And so it's the win condition in round 1. It's the win condition in round 2. It's the win condition here in round 3, which was the clutch from LMAO and Shaiko that brings back the 2v3. It just keeps on happening.
G2 are just the perfect example, like, of a team executing a 50-50 plan together is far, far better than a team executing a 100% plan not together. Because they find a way, even when the plan is so-and-so, when things go wrong and they have to prod and poke and lack, they do it together, they do it in sync, and it's been 5-1, it's been flawless from that.
So far we've explained how impressive it is for G2 to do that on attack, on consulate. We've explained also the way they do it, right? But we've not explained why it's happening. So let's take a look at one round where you have Buck aiming down towards Likefak here. Look at how frozen Likefak here. He's probably calling for help, probably trying to help. Look at this. He's standing in front of the Buck. He's fully exposed. Yep. It's like mistakes that we never see from Falcons before.
And so we're fortunate enough to hear the team comms. And that whole round, Likefak knew the Buck was down there. He tagged him up. He was the reason that the Buck was 10 HP in the first place. Tagged him first engagement of the entire round there. And he was asking 2 of his teammates, guys, make vertical on this Buck. I will make a play. I think that's the reason that he was stood. Neither of his teammates did it. I think communication has been the big problem for Falcons. The one round where they made the plays together was the one round where they shut down G2's rush. Every other round, they were just so fragmented, off doing their own things, off doing little side quests everywhere.
Falcons seem to have to start this attack in half without the shield as well. Without Sword Snake, is that going to bring much issues to them?
No, I think right now, nothing game-related is the problem. In my opinion, it's fully, but like fully mental. Like if I was in their team, it's like they need a big wake-up moment and they need to start thinking, okay, we can actually do this because one team is in the server right now and the other, they're not there.
No, absolutely not. That's what we're looking at here with this first half concluded. And that 37% of second half, or percentage that you just mentioned, Jack, is not in favor of Falcons whatsoever. Something big needs to change to at least salvage something on map 1.
Thank you very much, guys, and very much a reinforcement of what we said during that first half, Tim, coming in from the desk there, which is G2, they might do things that when they work out look like genius, and when it goes wrong, they look like lunatics, but the key thing is they do it together. Strong together is the big thing I'll state. And just to touch on these bans from G2, shock horror, Tim, they are identical to the last time they played, because like I've said before, if it ain't broke, why fix it? They beat them 7-4 here with these exact bans, so they're stuck to the same. I wouldn't be shocked if we do get to round 9 that we see a blitz being taken away as our third, as that was also the ban that we had last time around.
Attackers are heading out to defuse a bomb.
I think at least 3 rounds back-to-back here for Falcons. They need to match what G2 did, which was starting off with a full attacking rotation successfully. The stats don't support them doing that. If we have a look, 52% win rate for Falcons historically on this map over the last 6 months. So it doesn't really support them coming in and taking, you know, the full first 3, because then they effectively statistically lose the second 3. But let's see what they can do. Straight away, we're going to have Closet getting opened up with those secondary hard breach gadgets. Demos is going to be tracking onto the Solus, but Doki manages to clear that, obviously using those mute jammers to be able to just make sure that that track fails and no further intel is going to be given away.
For now, this anyway, yeah, I mean, this entry, again, for me, is the big sticking point, right? Like, even across the last time these two teams played, when G2 were on the defense, across the 5 rounds that it took to see in that second half, Falcons got the entry in a single one. We're seeing exactly the same thing playing out today in that first half. It's worth noting, by the way, Benja got 3 of those entries last time around, too. He was a little bit of a demon, it's fair to say, Tim, with those C4s, and look at what he's got in hand now, a C4 yet again.
Doki manages to pick up Doom, another good entry. 5 out of 7 so far going in favour of G2, and they close out almost all of them. They've only lost 1 round where they've got the entry kill. Benja, you're talking about Nitros earlier. Des add that one to the list, manages to find another, then a headshot. It just falls apart rapid from there. Benja goes in with a headshot. G2 collapse. G2 get the round, and Falcons are in serious trouble. This one could be over before it began.
Yep. I mean, we're at 6-1. It feels like we're speedrunning towards a very, very quick closing first map. And the problem then, Tim, is I know, of course, in map 2, I know we're in a best of 3. I know we're stepping into a second map. you can't help but feel a little bit nervous, even with it being Clubhouse, a map that G2, I'd say, aren't always the biggest fans of. It's kind of the same story for Falcons. I just feel like we're careering towards a 2-0 if this carries on. They need to do a real quick reset in between maps here. Otherwise, this series is over and done. And they drop down to the lower bracket where I believe they face off against Fnatic, who I can only imagine are sitting there at that tantalizing prospect of making EWC and seeing a battered and bruised Falcons and thinking, yeah, that one's for us. Cheers. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree. I think it doesn't really look like the map is the difference. So, you know, what you're saying about a 2-0 there, G2 go on and win Clubhouse as well.
Yeah.
With the way things are going, that wouldn't surprise me at all, because G2 just look sharper. They just look quicker in the gunfights. They just look more accurate. They just look deadlier than Falcons do so far today. You know, G2, don't get me wrong, they've played Consulate fantastically well, played as a team really well, pressured together, you know, worked together as a unit. But that working together as a unit, that working as a team is going to carry forward onto Clubhouse as well. Doom will not allow Doki to carry forward into the rest of the round, though. That's the Soulless gone. He nearly had his money, managed to land a shot or two onto Doom, didn't find the head, and Doom just hit an absolute wonderful reverse. Solotov manages to pick up Stomping, and the resurgence of Falcons, the comeback trail, at least starts off with a double entry.
What's that classic saying? The rumours of my demise were greatly exaggerated, and maybe we start to see a bit of a callback. If they lose this round, then there'll be a serious problem. They're in a 5 versus 2 team. It's one for the taking. My concern is less this round. It's the following 4 that they need to come out on top of as well. G2 will find a site that they can win on. They will find a way through a round at some point. And that is where I feel, I don't know, frustrated. Conflicted. You want to believe that Falcons can do something like that. We've seen them pull off some amazing comebacks historically against teams that aren't G2 at international events, for example. This one just feels maybe it's a little bit too far.
Yeah, I mean, look, Falcons absolutely can do it. There's no two ways. There's no two ways about it.
You're strong, Tim.
Why is it always Alamo? Alamo just dishing it out a little bit there in a 1v4. But look, it sends a message, I guess. I don't think it's going to annoy Falcons. I don't think they're going to let it, you know, affect them in any way, to be honest. He knows that the Deimos is just on the other side of the door. This isn't about finding the kill for Falcons. It was about getting the plant down. It was about playing the round. It was about getting it finished off and on the board. They do that really well. A much better round from Falcons. They won almost all of their gunfights there. Looked a lot sharper, particularly that opening kill from Doom. Good stuff from them to take step 1.
Calm down, because that was a Solotov 4K there. And you know me, Tim, I speak about hero plays all the time. When a single player pops off and goes nuts, yes, often enabled by their team somewhat, but also by mistakes from the other side, you need to be able to win as a team as well. The only round they've done that in so far was in round 4, and arguably that was on the back of G2 trying something a little bit mental, a bit of a rush. So we've had them deal with the rush well. We've had Solotov drop an absolute nuke in round 8. As I said, the next 4 rounds is what I'm really concerned about, because the other 6, G2 have just been lights out, a better team.
And it comes down to, you know, the age-old G2 have only got to be right once. That's the, you know, with the way that G2 have played so far, can you honestly see them not picking up one round here on the defense? At the minute, it's difficult to imagine, but Falcons have just given us something to at least build that hope on. It was a good round for them, a good couple of gunfights. Like you say, Solotov coming in big with 4K as well. They can't rely on that every single time, but Doom hit a nice shot as well. You know, they're starting to maybe just get the gears moving a little bit. This time, they are going to be attacking onto the split site. It's going to be Tellers and Archives. G2 do have a top floor presence as well. They are everywhere but the basement, really. There's nobody down in the basement at the minute, but otherwise they do have a presence. And this is interesting because that's exactly where Falcons are looking to pressure early in the round.
Sure. I was actually full towards Breedy on that blitz that I said, based on the previous bans from the last time they played on this map, would be banned away. That or a Blackbeard, but they seem more comfortable leaving this G2, of course, leaving the Blackbeard available for them to play with, and the blitz being identified as more of a problem. But fair to say, Breedy hasn't had the best day so far, so maybe they change it up and look towards something else that's been a problem throughout this game. And I imagine that will point more towards things like the Zockerby that Yus is currently on. Yeah, I look back historically at Falcons, and I've always said they're a team that relies super heavily on intel operators, and I think relying on them clearly is not doing them any favors, Tim. They've got 2 on side, and they've just had a mute swing onto a window and get a free kill. Okay.
Breeder takes a ton of damage. Benja, second Nitro kill of the game, by the way.
Look at who they've killed.
Yeah, exactly that. It's going to be the Dokabit and the Deimos taken out. Breeder low health, Solotov low health. 3 versus 3. You've really got to put this in the hands of G2 now. This is their opportunity to close this one out.
I was about to say, look downstairs. I think he might be working his way up now. In fact, no, he's still hanging down there, stomping. Currently downstairs. I was going to say had a C4, but he does not. Was then trying to join up and support his teammate. But they're in a spot where they can afford to dance around a little bit here. The information game is light on the side of Falcons, and they'll punish them through the vertical. There's no Deimos track. There's no call available. Those 2 early aggressive kills from G2 might just see this wrapped up here and now.
And that's the really big loss for Falcons there. If they wanted to keep anybody on the board, it was Doom. He has the sledgehammer. He can open the verticals. He was full health as well. That's the other really important element. Solotov, Breeder have got less than 50 health to share between the 2 of them. G2, Shaiko on full health, Stompin half health of the TCSG. They are just in such a commanding position here. Stompin steps around, first one down, and now you've got Breeder with a fraction of health. He's on a shield. There's very little that he can do realistically, and G2 just need to be patient here, I think. Drop back to site, exactly what Stompin does. He's going to leave this challenge up to Shaiko. Doesn't have anything kind of impact nades or anything like that to challenge with, but he's just going to wait for the opportunity, and he just needs one little toe-tickling shot to get his kill onto Breeder.
Honestly, Tim, like I say, you get those 2 early kills on towards the intel operators on the other side, and they just build out from there. One shot will be enough, and they're being so patient, dancing around knowing that there's 0 chance Breeder can ever find them. Trying to stick in towards the plant here, and there's Shaiko off towards his side. 3 kills in the round to G2 without anyone on the side of Falcons, even knowing they were there. A masterclass of playing around the mute and those early kills, and a well-deserved win. See how they fall short here against Falcons, especially given Falcons are starting on the attack, and that is where they need to find some success.
Yeah, I would agree with that wholeheartedly. I think this is more about the performance that the Falcons players can bring into the map rather than the performance that the map can bring out of them. So we're going to see our bans come in. Kaid is taken away along with Bandit, so we've got the double electricity ban. I'm not a huge fan of it for Falcons. We can come back to that. Grim, Blackbeard taken away by G2, so they're looking for those disruptive operators. They're going to remove them, try and make it, I think that's aimed, you know, heavily towards Church and Arsenal as well, which is somewhere that we would see those operators, you know, in particular use. Blackbeard going down dirt tunnel, that sort of thing. But that double electricity ban, I look at it and I think, you know, which walls are you really speeding? I don't mind the Kaid because you've got the hatches, you know, in Church and Arsenal, and it can be a little bit tricky to get them if there's electricals on there, although the pocket EMPs are pretty good at dealing with them. I'm just looking, I think, what is it going to speed up for you massively? What should you not be able to deal with? Which walls should you not be able to clear off? And now you're going to play into Azami, you're going to play into Mirror, you're going to play into Clash. So immediately I'm asking the question of Falcons, and it's one to watch in this round. How do they deal with those 3 operators particularly who would be regular bans, who they had the option to take away, but instead focused on that, you know, all-out electricity ban?
Absolutely. Well, let's see how they do. I think at the attack is where you'll often see a team's weaknesses more so than on their defense. It's something we've spoken about before on previous broadcasts, Tim. Is that on the attacking side is when it really requires being coordinated as a team. You've got to show that you can clear the map in good time. You've got to problem solve on the fly. Defenders, you can place down your utility, you can play in your set positions, you're a little bit of adaptation in the round. Attack is where really teams are defined as great or just good teams. And I think here, Falcon's going to get tested very, very quickly in the first 2 or 3 rounds. Uses at least has got himself inside a strip, and they've got a nice drone inside a bar, so they know that, at least for now, it looks pretty safe and sensible to start their march on forward. But of course, be mindful of G2, who no doubt are going to have some tricks up their sleeve. One of those you just saw being a C4 up in towards Garage, but Doki finds no one.
We're going to see Doki relocate just towards supporting Blue Tunnel's hold. Got the mirror window in place. Going to make it very difficult to take over Generator. And see the presence of Doom up on this hatch as well. Still got 2 fire arrows, so can support the push. Also got the smoke arrows, so could make that mirror useless as well. So Doom very, very important in his position and what he does with that utility as well over the next couple of minutes. to see whether they can get Falcons moving into blue. Elsewhere, just having a look at what's going on with Falcons. They've got Breeder inside of Kitchen, so he's going to be opening Kitchen hatch. We've got Leakifact towards Central Stairs. So I like this from Falcons. They are certainly stacking up for multiple avenues of attack, which is what we always talk about on this site as being a requirement.
It is. And I used to say back in the past, admittedly when Shaiko was still on side and there were a few other players, they were so good at executing on this map. There would be 70 seconds left on the clock and they'd be dropping in through 3 different hatches at once, player running down main stairs, and they would just overwhelm their opponents time and time again. But G2 so far look pretty happy to sit in behind the clash. They've got another C4 to play behind. They've still got a lot they can do here to hold off the aggression. The free information that comes out of Stomping will really help, but you know what helps even more? An entry. Down goes Shaiko 5v4. This is looking great for Falcons.
Yeah, that's the Asami dealt with. That's one of those power operators that I asked how a Falcon's going to handle it. They've handled it really well. We see the Capitão utility coming in. Solotov steps around, manages to pick up Alamau. That's the Goyo gone. This is a great attack so far from Falcons. Benja steps up, finds one, can find no more as Leakafact's on his other side. Breeder with the last. Falcons with a great 10-second collapse there. They've answered me as a critic at least, or other people asking those questions at least for that site. They will have benefited from the Cade being off the board, but they still dealt with the clash. They dealt with the mirror. They dealt with the Asami really well. They're going to have to continue doing that up on the top floor now.
I'm not entirely sure what G2 were hoping would happen in that round. Yeah, when we're 40 seconds in and every player is back on site, you're giving one of the top teams in the world, and again, Falcons made multiple grand finals in a row, 4 of them, they were absolutely brilliant. They're the kind of team that if you give them full map control and kind of go, yeah, we can win just by hunkering down. Not on that site, you ain't. There's far too many angles and far too many hatches and far too much soft flooring to worry about for you to just sit there and think that you can win against a top team like that. So if they're going to play downstairs again, I want to see them getting out of the map. They've got to be willing to challenge early on. Look at how we closed out on Consulate. They got 2 early kills onto a Deimos and a Dockerby, and they were nowhere near sight when those kills came on through. You've got to be aggressive early on. You've got to put the ropes towards Falcons a little bit and really make them fight for every bit of map control, ideally by paying with 1 or 2 lives to get there. So let's see if G2 can do a little bit more in this round.
Setting up then for Gym and Bedroom, and like you said, definitely more is needed from G2, but Falcons, as they said on the desk, really important that they get a good start here on Clubhouse and the first few rounds especially in the bag. They've got the attack inside, it's their map choice, they have to come away with a few. It could be a real big confidence builder for them, and that is how they've started off in round 1 at least. But the top 2 floor sites, they need at least one of these sites. They need to go 2-1 on the first rotation. 3-0 even better. It has to be a minimum 2-1 though. G2 do have somebody down in the basement.
I like it.
Be Dorky. You've got, there you go, I was going to say, you've got a little scanner that can tell you where that drone is. Doesn't go and take it out himself, because I think he's trying to keep himself off the radar a little bit there. Now, Falcons...
He was worried about oil.
Yeah, Falcons really should be aware of that. They should know about his presence. And like you say, Dorky not wanting to overcommit himself and offer a line of sight to them. So it's just a little bit of cat and mouse down there.
Well, this is what I was asking for, right, at the start of this round, is can we be a bit more aggressive around the map? Can we waste time? Can we force resources out of the other side, whether it's players, utility, drones? It doesn't really matter. It's just the sheer fact that we're wasting a lot of time. And look, we're about 75 seconds in. It's not tons of time wasted, but we've still got players on the side of G2 looking to be busy out around the map. You've still got the clash. You've still got a C4 from Benja, Shock Horror. They are trying to waste time. They are forcing Falcons to commit more utility than maybe they'd like. But maybe looking for a retake here, both on either side of the door. I'm not convinced they're 100% done, Tim. They want to challenge this still.
Just getting a little bit pushed around at the minute, G2.
Sorry, strain.
Just get forced out of cash there, as we see. Benja holding on inside of construction, just waiting for his opportunity for a challenge. As that wall gets open, he drops himself away. Nitro goes out. That's 3. Keep counting them. That's 3 in this game between Consulate and Clubhouse that Benja has hit with the Nitro. We spoke about his efficiency with that utility. Breeder is actually the leading Nitro killer, as you said, in the world at the minute. Benja is certainly chasing him down. However, they're completely unaware, G2, that this plant is going down. There's very little they can do. Dorky on the fight back. Can they win the Battle of Elbow from around that clash shield? Not at the minute. Plant is successful, but Falcons, they are on wobbly ground here, Des.
and they've got a smoking LML's back pocket still, so he can deny an angle from the attackers if necessary. We'll get stomping though. That's a beautiful play from users. Shoot into another, and Doki's got it all to do. He did hit onto the walls, 1 kill on the flank, but he's got 2 more to find here. Won't get away with it. What a great call by Falcons, noticing there were 3 players off site. They knew that Doki was in basement. They knew the Clash was playing on construction door. They knew that Benja had dropped and got a C4 underneath. What do the remaining 4 players do? Hit site right now. Brilliant timing, fantastic call, great round.
Stompen's just inadvertently sold himself there on the Clash. The one thing that you have to do on a Clash, if you're trying to improve your Clash play, this is one thing that will do it immediately, and that is always think about the distance between you and the attackers. You have to maintain that distance, because otherwise it is like this. It's so easy for them to take you down and deal with you. It wasn't purposeful from Stompen. He wanted to push elbow. He wanted to see what was going on. Unfortunately for him, elbow was pushed at the same time, so it kind of unknowingly caused the distance between the 2 of them. That's why I say he's inadvertently sold himself there. But by giving that opportunity for them to get up close and personal, use that melee attack, initiate the shield break, they lose the Clash, they lose Stompen, and they lose the round.
That's probably why you see him calling an attack timeout. This is not how they envisioned this going, but that's what they've got. It's the hand they've been dealt. And I will say, a lot of it comes down to, well, in part to G2, in part to Falcons. Round 2 was a lot better than round 1 for G2. They were willing to challenge around the map. Doki was trying to be a bit of a nuisance, and their extension was also really good. But Falcons in round 1 made all the use of the map control they've been given. In round 2, made a brilliant call when they realized 3 players were off-site. So a lot of the accolades need to be given. They deserve their flowers for how they've approached those 2 rounds. But G2 got to wake up here, else this could start looking like the reverse of Consulate, where Falcons have a brilliant attacking half.
They've certainly got the foundation for it. There's no 2 ways about it. We're going to see them going back down to the lower floors here, G2. And as they try to just get something going, they decide that the basement is going to be the better place for them to do it. They've got the Tuberau brought along this time rather than the Clash. Maybe just going to delay things a little bit more with the opening of those hatches. Just having a look across. Got a couple of nitros as well. An often forgotten function of the Tuberau, of course, is getting those auto canisters down. And when an operator walks over the top of them, it'll leave footprints there. So it gives you a good idea if there's somebody up above. It could be something they play for, because the hatches have been left open. So, you know, it's not necessarily about keeping those closed.
I'm wondering how much time Doki and Stompen get away with here. It's not like a huge investment in the roam. 2 very much individual play in different parts of the map. Like, yes, Stompen could challenge through the softball to help out inside of stock 2. But Falcons are being, especially receptive towards that and being careful. They're reacting to what they're seeing. And I think having users on the Dockerby here, along with Doom on the shield, is a really good way of making sure they can force control of these parts of the map. Risk that Doki's got is naturally when a drone sees you when you take a gunfight, you have to move. They're going to know you're there. They're going to start punishing you. And Doki, by the skin of his teeth, gets away with this one. This is what I mean. Once they know where you are, Tim, you're dead to rights. You have to move. He's lucky to get away alive.
Yeah, G2 can't afford to be overly aggressive here. It's something, you know, they've lost out to already, losing players out on those roams, out on those extensions, and they need to make sure that they're not giving Falcons anything easy, because Falcons at the minute are hitting the hard ones, let alone the easy ones. G2 do get themselves now completely back down to site, apart from Benja, who's up on that top floor. Falcons, are you aware? Do you have a plan in place? Are you ready for the possibility of a flank coming through? The drone does not look in Benja's direction, so they're going to be unaware of his presence, I think, here. This could be a real party stopper for Falcons. No, they know, they're watching the window.
No, only slightly, though.
He's got underneath it, though.
Oh, he's got away with that one there. That's a painful one. A bit of a siege time moment, you might say, as well, because the drone did nearly slip him out. But Tim, look again. They're saying, okay, then if he's going to do that, we need to go in towards site here. We're in a 4 versus 4 on site itself, but held back by the Goyo canisters. G2's throwing them down, and now Benja is above, ready to cause a bit of a headache for them. Has a C4 in hand, but he can deny that hatch being open. This is a problem now for Falcons.
Yeah, exactly. They're looking to get the drop, and even if they go down, he can attack from 2 floors. Stomper manages to get a double, and yet the inability to clear out Benja, the inability to even be aware of his presence has probably cost Falcons this round. It has been a big loss for them. 2 versus 5 at the minute. A lot of health missing on the side of G2, so certainly not impossible, but not looking good, looking less and less likely. In fact, as Shaiko manages to pick up Solotov. 5 versus 1 now, 7 seconds left to go. G2, they're just going to hold their positions. They know that Brede is in dirt tunnel. He's going to see if he can get himself a little bit of compensation there, but that's not going to be the case, as it's a flawless round for G2. Better defense from them, and just a big mistake from Falcons, allowing Benja to slip the net up on that top floor.
Yeah, the biggest thing was, and Falcons tried the same thing as in round 2. They tried to say, players off site, hit site, go. Just force your way down through that hatch here before Benja can kill us. They did try. They just ran into stomping head first. And the two that were then trying to support inside of dirt couldn't do so because of the stall coming out there, the Goyo canisters, the Izami, for example. And so what G2 have done is basically disrupt the rhythm of Falcons. It's what I was calling for after round 1. How can we slow them down? How can we break them apart? How can we stop them being able to execute as a full 5? Really well played by G2, and that tack timeout clearly doing good work for them.
I mean, we know the impact of Romalio in those tactical timeouts. We've heard it countless times from G2 themselves, and he has obviously given them a blueprint there, recognised those issues, and given them the opportunity to go through and take the round. Stompin managed to get a 3K in the round as well, which will, of course, make up for his clash issues in the second round. We're going to go then into the second half of these defences, if you want to call it that. It's going to be round 4, and G2 will be back up to the top floor. Gym and bedroom, they lost this in round 2. Interestingly, we haven't seen them go to CCTV and cash yet, so the rotation now is likely to be gym and bedroom, CCTV and cash, and then back down to Church and Arsenal again. So arguably, if we say that they're able to hold on to Church and Arsenal again, having just done it there, that would give them at least that second round. So if they can only get one top floor successful defense, they start actually looking pretty good, Des, with the 3-3 half.
Yeah. If they can get away with it, of course. That's the big if on this one, because I imagine Falcons themselves will have something to say about it. 2-round buffer on the attack is a great start, but they feel they can build that into more, and why wouldn't they, given how those first 2 attacks went down? But as we said, it's G2 are the ones that need to shake things up. Either way, looking at the lineup on the side of Falcons, Tim, they ain't mucking about. You got a Dokkaebi, you got the Deimos, and you've got the Solid State. They know, I think, that G2 are trying to play this more disruptive game and are trying to keep themselves out on the map, wasting time, disrupting Falcons. A good way to control that is to bring in teleoperators, but I don't know about bringing 3 of them personally.
To Brow, just making it difficult to breach into CCTV at the minute could be a big factor later in the round. If they're able to keep that closed and keep themselves access into CCTV, then will windows become infinitely harder to play on. Jacuzzi wall does get open, so that is a point to the credit for Falcons. We can see the first of those radar scans coming in from Solid Snake as well, going to reveal Shaiko's position. Doesn't really teach Falcons too much. I think you could reasonably assume that somebody's going to be playing in and around master bedroom, but they now at least know for sure.
Freebie!
There's a drone hole.
That's... we've all been caught out by it at some point, but that's a bad one. Punished by Shaiko. Snake going down. One of the exact operators that should be able to tell you where someone like Shaiko is.
Shaiko's going to get that Dokkaebi call coming in. The question is, does he just take the damage? Yes, he does. That's going to be his phone off the board. Not going to matter as Stomper manages to find users. 5 versus 2, and G2, they just look like they've woken up, don't they, really, Des? Those first 2 rounds, they're almost unrecognisable compared to what we're seeing now. Falcons struggling to get inside of the building, struggling to find kills, struggling to really get themselves into this round. Leakerfact, super low health as well. G2 still in full control of their extension, of construction, of site itself. Falcons making very little progress on gym and bedroom.
Absolutely. Like you say, it feels like they're woken up a little bit. The wrath of Romalio, clearly something that G2 have showed a bit of respect to. They're playing a lot more actively. They're not sitting there and waiting to be beaten. They're playing the game far more actively and being far more aggressive in the challenge they're giving to the side of Falcons, who now look a little bit lost. And it does make me wonder, will we see a tack timeout from them potentially after this round as a way to try and recover things? Because otherwise, this could very quickly crumble away from them. A comfortable round for G2, and they bring us all even 2-2.
Stomping finding that final kill onto Leakavac on the main stairs, and we are now likely to see from G2 CCTV, which we haven't yet seen, so Falcons are going to be going into this one a little bit blind, not going to have necessarily a previous round to play off. They will have some prep in the background, they will be aware of how G2 generally hold this, but maybe a little surprise, a little curveball can be thrown their way by G2. And given that Church and Arsenal is still on the board as a possibility for round 6, you actually start to worry a little bit for Falcons now, because they're going to an as yet unseen site in CCTV cache, and then they're going back to Church and Arsenal, which is one of the strongest defensive sites in the game, and we saw G2 win it in round 3 at the second attempt. So I look at this and I think there's a timeline, there's a world where G2 take a 4-2 defensive half, and you've got to fancy them at that point then to get onto the attack the way that we saw them attack on Consulate,
Attackers have located a bomb.
to get that done on Clubhouse.
It does make you wonder if we find ourselves going through to labs, who walks away on top. Because both teams, I'll say both teams like the map is supply. G2 basically never play it. But I would wager their performance has been generally better throughout the series. The highs have been better. Of course, the first 2 rounds of this map were a little bit like, whoops daisy, what the hell's going on here? The Falcons woken up. The last 2 I feel have kind of showed it was kind of more on G2, not really offering much in the fight. At that point, does the map step in? Because it becomes such a big lean towards Falcons, but I think G2 won't be all too bothered. They'll be going into a map that they know they have their permaban, because it means there's very little that Falcons have on them to go by. We'll see if we get there, of course.
Have the external wall breached immediately. That's good, prevents the defenders from moving on in, also increases the pressure, but we are seeing the double reinforced. You can see it on the right of your screen there between CCTV and Garage Catwalk. It is something that we have seen more and more recently, but Dorky doesn't play into it. He puts himself onto the window, watched from that breach, and the kill comes in. So a little bit of support for Garage Catwalk now has been lost. Benja does take down Breeder, 4 C4s for him so far in this game. Leakavac takes down Shaco, 4 versus 3, and this is looking good for Falcons. They've got themselves control over Catwalk. They've got themselves the Sense utility deployed. They've got themselves a kill onto Stomping now, 4 versus 2, and you've got to back Falcons for the win from here.
Surely. We already seen them bottle something like this back on map 1, but with the shield on side, with all the control they've got. Surely not, although there's a start. The shield can get the cross Tim. They can look to get the plant down here. There shouldn't be a bother. Has Benja got a C4 in back pocket? No, he does not. Alamar's going to get underneath that. Like, boys, we've got the tools to get this job done, but we're making it look so hard right now. Off towards Alamar is on red. Gets one for himself. Benja does lose out his fight, though. Surely this is theirs for the close now. Leakavac, the one with the shield on side. Solotov waiting for his man. Alam asking questions. Won that 1v2 back on Consulate. Surely not again, Tim.
You wouldn't expect it, would you? But with Alam out at the minute and the way he's been playing, you just really don't know. Plant is going down. Leakavac is going to secure it. The cover was in place, but Alamau manages to hit the first. He's got to deal with a Monty, though.
Dear.
We know that this is one of the most difficult 1v1s in all of Siege. Can Alamau create a situation where he can get that shield break? He can't get away. It's going to be very difficult for him to find the angle. This is always the problem when trying to deal with a Monty. Alamau, he needs to somehow get him to drop the shield. Leakavac is low health. He's not going to want to overcommit. If anybody can see this out, surely it is Leakavac.
Ooh, we did drop it there for a second, but he's down to his last few chances. He's going to push into it, but I don't think he gets away with it now. No. Leakavac playing it out well against one of our go-to Monty players here in EU. Just having a bit of fun with him now, but sure enough, Falcons will get their 3rd attacking round. For a second, it looked ropey. But the crucial part is they're back in the lead.
Yeah, Alamau unlucky that it was a Monty that he was left up against there. If you put him in the 1v2 and he finds the first, you'd back him to get the 2nd, but not when it is that big shieldy boy that's going to put up the metal wall in between them. So 3-2 Falcons. There is still an opportunity to Falcons to come away seriously on top of this half, but they've got to do it down in Church and Arsenal.
And isn't that a little bit of a thinker? They played it out pretty well previously, but that's where the scrap will come in, I think, is now how do Falcons respond to what they saw coming out of G2? And if they can get away with a 4-2 half, then wow, it will feel a lot like Consulate. Yes, it was 5-1 back there for G2 on the attack, but it turns out both teams are just very, very good, it seems. It's flicking things on. When they go on the attacking side of their own map pick, both have been great so far.
Attackers have discovered the location of a bomb.
This could be, you feel, a little bit make or break for G2. I fancy if Falcons get this attack, G2 then are staring down the barrel of kind of overtime at best, I would say personally. I think, you know, a 4-2 attacking half would be good for them, and then they get themselves that opportunity of a few extra rounds. 5-1 on the attack. They attacked very well on console, but I think it is going to be a lot to ask against Falcons on Clubhouse. So this is a really, I don't often call it as soon as round 6, but I think this one is actually really pivotal. If G2 can get this one, they give themselves the opportunity then to be able to win this in regulation time.
It will certainly again set things up for a very, very interesting third map if we get there, but got to play through the rest of this one first and foremost. Once again, jumping across onto playing the Monty because, again, why fix what ain't broken? It's done so well for you in the previous round to help you get map control, to be able to bully the players of G2 around. Don't try and change away from it. The crucial part is pretty much everyone on G2 here is dug back on side of site already, outside of Benjamin and Stomping, who are ready to drop through the hatch, but got a little bit aggressive here. Got themselves inside this first floor, and they know towards change. There is a player waiting. There's now 3 of them, Tim, up on this first floor. So it feels like Falcons have assumed it has been cleared and then found out, oh, actually, it's not cleared. However, look underneath them. Leakerpack has got himself downstairs. A couple of players have done just that. They're going to make use of the Ying to make sure these players upstairs can't contribute, and they're just going to hit site.
It's not going to work very well, though, as Stompin and Shaiko managed to get one apiece. Shaiko with another. And in the blink of an eye, it is a 1 versus 5 for Jumin. What I said could be a pivotal round. G2 look like they will probably come away with the win unless it is a 1v5 ace clutch. It will not be. Shaiko manages to get himself another. It is flawless for G2 in round 6. And there you feel, give themselves a little bit of an advantage with a 3-3 half.
Okay. What I'm slightly wary of is it time for a Pistoki? I mean, I'm guessing it is, so I guess while he does that, Tim, we can go to the studio and see what they think. I'll go for a piss as well, guys. What do you think?
Thank you. Good luck. Have fun with that one. No, but this is why we like best of threes here, right? The better team gets tested, the resilience get tested as well, and that's what we're seeing with Sparks from the side of Falcons.
Yeah, I think we saw a couple of examples of Falcons finally live up to the expectations that we had. Clearly, it has worked. The reset mental between the two maps. Let's take a look at this round, for example. They read that it's double reinforced on Catwalk. They send the Sense to cover top red and Cash. Monty is solo challenging Jaeger in Rafters. And look at Hibana using the smoke here to go through the window on Rafters, and they're 2v1ing the player stuck inside of Rafters. That's Glass, actually, who will sin here, and we'll get the pick onto Shaiko. They set up that 4v3. Eventually, they get the plan down. It's just that, okay, finally we have strategically something that is sound.
Yeah.
And they're doing it all together.
Yep.
They've picked the right operators and are reacting to the setup in front of them.
Yep.
And they're all doing it like cohesively at the right timing.
Yep.
So like all of the missing steps that we had, right? The fundamentals that we know Falcons are supposed to be like one of the best teams in fundamentals in the world. That's it. We're starting to see it alive.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what you kind of want to see. That being said, they did only get a 3-3 split. I thought G2 were very good at prodding and poking and
attack,
reacting well. So, yeah.
I think overall they're on attack. So I think that it's decent, right? Clubhouse, like they're going to go on the easier side. They're going to go on defense. I think they can be happy. At least I see a chance here.
I think it's a big improvement from map 1,
yeah,
what
exactly.
I will say. I don't think they'll be fully thrilled with the fact it was 3-3. Obviously, that rush went wrong in the end in the very final round. But the reactions have been good, and that's one thing that they've got to take into this game. And I think that's what the coach will be telling them. I think that's what Julia will be telling them during this 2-minute halftime now, is that, hey guys, forget about Consulate. It's been a great first half. We've got something to build upon, and now they will go on to their attacks.
And the main thing is you're disrupting the momentum on the side of G2 who are taking everything lightheartedly, who are having fun, who are on Consulate demolishing them. Oh, suddenly it's getting a bit harder than they expected. And so how are they going to react? Are they going to keep up the theme of just laughing it off? Or are they going to start to take it seriously, and are the nerves starting to kick off, you know?
Well, it wouldn't be a Clubhouse if we get the most default basic bends on planet Earth, as we're seeing Breeze and Isle, Breeze as well. Anything else that we're hoping to see? I mean, this is also kind of along what we expected.
Leave the Monty open.
Yeah, leaves the Monty open. I think for G2 get rid of the Bandit Cade, it makes a lot of sense. Just get the walls for free. It will allow them to take the gaps, because that's what G2 are going to hunt. They're going to try and get as many walls open as they can and then find the gaps. So get rid of both those breaches. Of course, it's the same old things. You get rid of the breach deniers, you're playing into a lot of utility in the end. I wonder whether the Clash could come and play. I feel like that could be very, very good against G2 on this map.
Smart move.
Yeah, and we also saw how annoying a Monty really can be in that first half here in this matchup. Will this be a G2 2-0, or is Falcons going to bounce back?
Well, that is the big question, Anne, isn't it? We're going to find out in the next 6 rounds whether or not this is going to be a 2-0 or if it will be a bit of a bounce back and we go into something a bit more interesting on Nighthaven Labs. Touching on the bans real quickly, the same bans what we saw actually in G2's game against Virtus Pro. They banned away the Kaid and the Bandit. They had the Ace banned away against them, but it was the Capital, it was the Monty that you heard the desk kind of questioning and saying, oh, that's open, maybe they play the Clash here. The Capital is because in 4 of those rounds where G2 attacked against Virtus Pro, they did run the Capital team. So I think we're looking at it and saying, well, they used it an awful lot to clear out a lot of the map last time they were here. Let's just get it out of their hands and we'll find a different way to try and deal with the shields instead.
Leakerback, Users, and Doom are all going to be out on the roam at the minute. They need to be aware here because G2 are going directly towards site Alamo, straight down dirt tunnel with the Blackbeard. I'm not sure where everybody... G2, so everybody else is kind of out. There's nobody backing Alamo here. He's on his own inside of dirt, so it's not a rush. He's not going to try and push directly into site. They've got Goyo canisters to play against. That's that dealt with. But G2... they can't ignore those 3 on the top floor forever.
I like it from Breedy as well. Drop another one down and then retreat even further in. And the rest are trying to push it upstairs, Tim. And they've lost 2 players trying to do it. This is the problem that G2 had back in that first half, was they weren't playing the map. They weren't giving Falcons problems to solve. But Falcons, well, they've just made a whole host of problems here in round 1.
Perfect start from Falcons. Doom and Leakerback both getting the job done. It was always a hard commit to the roam. Going to try and take the battle with the player on catwalk, but we know how difficult that one is. Just having a look over that keeper barricade, and right now that double electricity ban, I've already spoken about it, is going to leave G2 with a lot of utility to play into. The Ella, the Azami, the possibility that Doom could be pretty much anywhere around the map. He's down in the basement at the minute, but they haven't even got this top floor clearance complete. I don't think they're aware. No, they're not. They don't know that Leakerback's there. Shaco taken down 5 versus 1. It was flawless G2 last round. It's flawless Falcons this round.
Well, doesn't that certainly set this up to be a very interesting second half? Yes, only just slightly in the lead, but the performance like that in round 1, they've shown that they can deal with G2's attacks, that they can get out there and play the map. And Tim, we said coming in, we don't feel the map is going to make a difference here. It's down to a team thing. It just goes to show, as always, what the hell do we know realistically? It changes like the wind between a map. We said maybe a chat between the games would help out, but we were a bit worried about whether or not we see them fight back. That's exactly what they've come out to Clubhouse doing.
Yeah, look, this is the fact when you play at a pro level of something like Siege. There's actually, in the grand scheme of things, very little in between these 2 teams. You know, one team may be playing better for a few weeks than another, but, you know, is there a vast difference between the players on Falcons and the players on G2? No, there's wildly skillful players on either side, and that can fluctuate within, as you say, a match, a map even itself, and you can get these passages of play where a team will just grab a couple of rounds. And it's an important point because teams have got to recognise when they find themselves in that little bit of patch, that micro kind of bubble of form, even within one map, that they make sure that they do grab those 2 or 3 rounds. I would say on the back of that, round 7 from Falcons, it was, you know, very, very good from them. It was very efficient. They now need to run with that and think, right, is there an opportunity to get another 2 here and find ourselves very quickly 6-3 and looking at closing this one out and getting to labs? You've got to be able to take advantage of those moments. That's what the best teams do really well.
And again, there's more problems that are put before them, but so far, so well handled. As Alamar gets that entry onto the mirror, takes the C4 offline at that as well. Now, given they've got all the information coming in from Benja, they should know that this is the nice thing about sites like this. It's also the same for Cash TC. You can see so much because you're on the same floor, you're outside the building, you can feed your team so much information, especially when there isn't a mute on the other side. Just got to be careful here about Doom. Of course, won't know about him, doesn't see him inside a garage. This is what I mean. Look, you can see where things have been set up, where players are holding, gets challenged from inside a garage and now has to back away. Otherwise, G2 are coming for his neck.
Yeah, they're well aware of his position now. Benja will know exactly where those shots come from. The information continues to be fed in, but Shaiko can do nothing with it. Solotov takes down the Blackbeard as well. That is just a complete reversal of fortunes for Falcons. It looked like it was going to be a tough half for them. June manages to pop up elsewhere in the map and find a kill onto Dorky, and just like that, inside of 10 seconds, Falcons have been able to get themselves a couple of kills and find themselves now 4 versus 2 rather than 4 versus 5. Brilliant stuff from them. They will not be rattled by this G2 side, and look, 5-3 on the scoreboard at the end of this round would be absolute perfection for them.
Yeah, like just how they're playing everything has been great. And the thing is, G2 are trying the right things. Yeah, making use of the snake, getting the read onto the player inside of construction, calling on Shaiko out of Lion Scan as well to step in and punish that player, and he still walks away with the kill with no response from the other side. That's even with Falcons losing the entry, let's not forget. Nice kill for Stomping, granted, but still 3 more to find, and Solosov, he ain't gonna give him a chance, Tim. Not even a sniff. Brede for the close. Another one going the way of Falcons, Tim, and they're on their way towards a map win.
Stomper needed the second kill onto users inside of construction there. If he gets that and it goes back to 2v2, maybe we're looking at a slightly different outcome on that round, but ultimately it was not to be. Falcons, they are dialed in at the minute on Clubhouse. This is one of those, it feels like sometimes rare days where we see teams really dominating their own map picks. You know, more often than not, it's almost like they go the other way. It's, you know, you're winning the other team's map, but that's not going to be the case here, as Falcons get themselves a second successful defense, 5-3 now, and that is a little micro win for them. I was talking about these kind of macro bubbles of form. That is a little micro win for them. That quarter of the game, their first 3-round defensive rotation, they've won it 2-1 minimum. It might be 3-0 if they can hold on to CCTV and Cash. So G2, it's essential for them in this round 9 that they get this one done. I said how important round 6 was. G2 were able to win it. They haven't got dividends out of the back of it. They need to get round 9 now, because 6-3 and 5-4 are such considerably different score lines if you are in G2's shoes.
It is, and Tim, we've had a bit of fun with this in ranked recently when I look at it. I'm seeing the Maestro on side and not tons to deal with it on the other side. You might look at frag grenades and say, well, that's something that's going to help. Sure. I'm more just concerned here that all the information will be sat in User's back pocket off the back of those cameras, and there won't be a whole lot that G2 can do necessarily to surprise them. And we spoke about it already, like G2 rely on that overwhelming nature of their games sometimes to flood in and punish teams who, you know, the number of times they shot players in the back, for example, or this kind of kill is certainly not going to help either. Not too sure about that one leaking back. Again, falls down as the entry death for his team, but I just worry that with all that information now, Falcons are going to have a lot of fun this round.
I love that opener, and I'll very quickly get this in. It is something you can take away to your own ranked games. You know, it may not be something that you do. You'll see it at the higher levels, and what's happened there is one player has shot open the barricade while another one waits, because naturally players assume that the barricade is being opened by the person who's going to be aggressive on that barricade. By having it open for you, you are immediately ready to attack, and that will often catch defenders on the back foot, and that's what's happened there. They don't expect, because the bullets are coming in from a different direction, and it's that angle that's being watched onto them. Immediate death, really well played, so try that. Get yourself lined up, get a teammate to open the barricade for you, and bang, hit them hard and fast, and you will often get some success. Tube, he's not gonna... Oh! I was going to say not going to find success. It's going to be Solotov who manages to get a double up on the catwalk, and that might just keep Falcons in this round 3 versus 3.
Well, sometimes it takes a hero, Tim, and he might have been that guy, but finally shut down by Alamau. Shooting back into another. It's a 2v2 where it feels like there's a good chance here that Falcons might just hold on. That's a lot of time and tussle being spent here. We come down to the last 70. Not like G2 are exactly starved on time. They're going to try and make it happen. Brede from one side. Can the cover come through? Is forced to pull off for a second, but there we go. Comes in from the backside now. Alamau's got it all to do in a 1v2.
Yeah, it was a really big gamble that. You've got a Maestro bubble there that's going to be feeding intel. You've got a minute left on the clock. You don't necessarily need to take that, but Alamau now finds himself in the reverse of the position he was in earlier. This time, he's the shield in the 1v1. He's got 40 seconds left on the clock. Brede doesn't have any utility, so he's going to have to fight this. And with a shotgun and an SMG against the Blackbeard, this one could be tough. He's going to have plenty of intel from that Maestro bubble. And Alamau just keeps playing with the diffuser here, but you just wonder, is there a chance for him to just go for the kill? get the shield up in Breeday's face.
Oh, does he know he does? And now that he knows that he's sat on the door. No nades to even roll at Breeday to try and force him back here. Couldn't win it out against Leak. In fact, can he win it out against Breeday? Playing the dancing game, he's pulled away, and Breeday still gets him anyway. It ain't quite the clutch day for Alamo. That's 2 1v1s that he's now missed out on, and Falcons go up to map point.
Yeah, really big moment for Breeday. If you want anybody in a clutch situation, even a 1v1 against the shield, it's going to be that man right there, Breeday. I don't know if Alamo could have maybe tried a little bit more movement, get himself into top red, maybe just mix things up, try and close that distance to avoid that just staggering damage that comes out of that SAS shotgun. But he was on cam the whole time. You picked up on it at the beginning of the round. There's G2. I can only assume didn't pick up on the Maestro during that prep phase, during that drone phase, and so they didn't have the utility to deal with it. They didn't have a Brava, for example, to steal those cams away. Big missed opportunity from Doki, by the way, up on Catwalk, and G2 just left short-handed at the end.
It's unfortunate, but that is how the rounds boil down sometimes. And you can see how much it means to them as well here, showing that they have got that fight in them. This ain't over yet. And they could still yet extend that streak of not losing to G2 in best of series. Again, Labs is going to be such a fascinating map because on paper, it's a brilliant map for Falcons. For G2, it's not. It's their least preferred map. They've lost the last 2 times they've played on it, for example. I'm a little nervous for them going there. And again, it's them all now have to pick themselves up in the break and figure out how do we get through that final map.
Falcons only need to be right once. Church and Arsenal, G2 didn't really get anywhere near this last time. Let's see if they learn their lesson, which was clear top floor, because they didn't last time around and Falcons punished them heavily. Just looking at the lineup for Falcons, certainly not as heavy a presence. They've got Leak of Fact this time on main stairs, and they've got Doom out in garage, but nobody on top floor, so it might just afford G2 a little bit of extra space. I don't hate this from Falcons. They're trying something considerably different. You know, no top floor presence this time. Play behind the Clash instead. The Snake is going to clear out that top floor super quickly, so G2 will be aware of this. They're going to have plenty of time in the round. Question is now, do they have the utility to deal with the Clash? It seems to be a common theme for them. Didn't have the utility they needed to deal with the Maestro. Now, I'm looking at it and I'm wondering, where do they deal with that Clash? They've got the 5 nades left on side. That's going to be the focus to try and deal with that operator.
All right, well, same as before, it's pressure going in towards Dirt. To be fair, Breeday played this out so well last... Oh, please make sure it's open. Last time round, quite a lot of time was wasted in here because while Alamau got up real close, Breeday always puts his Goyo canister on the left here of where Alamau is. He steps on forward, he eats a little bit of damage, gets forced backwards, and while the fire is burning out, he typically puts down another Goyo canister. But I do know he doesn't have a second one with him here. This is where I imagine they've got another idea to try and deal with him instead. He's taking a lot of damage there, Breeday, too, and trying to contest. Could be enough here that he can get a bit of damage onto Alamau with that impact sat in back pocket, though. Either way, Alamau can start putting some pressure in. They've still got a deal, though, Tim, like we saw last time with players upstairs, and it's Solotov, the one that's looking to be a bit of a bother.
Just like Benja managed to slip the net for G2 when they were on the defense, he got himself up onto top floor and it was unknown. It looks like Solotov has managed to do the same thing. G2 may well have a drone up there that will provide a little bit of intel. Breeday, last little bit of health is taken away from him. Doom onto Shaiko. We're going to see Doki down as well. Looks like Falcons could be on the roll here towards this one. Stompin takes down users as Doom got himself another. Solotov does appear in the map. G2, not a clue. Stompin taken out, and it is now 3 versus 1. Alamau with it all to do, and he's got his worst nightmare up against him. It's a Clash that can activate the shield break, and it's Falcons winning Clubhouse just as quickly as G2 were able to win Consulate. I think is, you know, something else that we need to acknowledge, because the better that the teams are playing on that side, the harder it's going to be to face off against them, and that's what we've seen. Whether that will change up or not on this map, we will see. Time will tell. Now have the bans coming in. Thermite, unusual ban, but I think we'll probably see double hard breach on the back of that. I'd be surprised if not. From Falcons, just looking to slow down the breaching as G2 look to speed it up. We've got a real, you know, sort of juxtaposition of bans there. Yep, double hard breach damage. And then G2 with the bandit ban looking to speed it up, but go with the mirror as well. You know, super powerful. We don't really need to talk too much about mirror. I'm interested in where Falcons will, it's going to start defense upon the top floor. I've spoken about top floors recently in general, and about how it feels like it limits you a little bit as a defender. It restricts you a little bit because it removes that element of a roam game or any serious extensions from side. You know, if you look at the last map, we had Church and Arsenal. We saw great success for Falcons with that top floor roam, getting themselves kills up there, making it difficult for G2. When you play a top floor site, that becomes a lot less possible, because if you play out in the map, teams will largely just ignore you because they know that the defenders have a little bit of a struggle in really impacting onto a site from below. Yes, they might have the odd nitro knocking about, but other than that, it's not like you've got a Buck or a Deimos underneath that's going to do real damage from down there. So generally, you'll just be ignored. So top floor defenses, you will notice, tend to be very heavily focused just around the floor in question. And we'll see whether that causes any problems for Falcons here in round one.
Hi, Shoko. I think you wanted to know that people are reading him and, you know, saying hello to him. Say hello to Shoko.
Hello, Shako. It's also worth remembering that the winner of this map qualifies to EWC.
It is. This is the one that decides it all. I was looking back at the last time they played this map, and for Falcons it was 2 minutes ago. G2 it was 5. I mean, that's just, okay, horrible. That's a rank moment, isn't it? So someone's spraying softball and I'm dead. Brilliant. It happens. This is one of them that I look at, though, again, on the ban side of things. When when Falcons last played this map, they found themselves on the receiving end of different bans. There's things shaped up. They had the Bandit and the Kaid away, and then they played Mirror for the first 2 rounds. And fair enough then, Enterprise were like, yeah, we'll take that off them pretty quickly. I'm really surprised they haven't jumped onto it in the first round here to make use of it, given they played it across top floor and then on the first floor when we were playing that game before. So a little bit of work to do there. I think maybe a bit of surprise to come out in the next couple of rounds if the Mirror isn't banned. Sorry, the Mirror is being banned away. The Kaid, though, I'm surprised it's being brought along probably more often. I think when the bans are saving out here, they've got it being played in this round at the very least, it's good, but maybe we'll see a little bit of transformation of that as the rounds go by. I do expect it will be the 3rd ban that comes out.
Continued problems to get this wall open for G2, but they will get the job done now as the Maverick had burnt the reinforcement off and the Ash charge clears it out. Leakerpack has been backed up as well. He was playing inside of Connector, but he's been backed up only as far as Electrical, where he actually manages to take Shako down with a headshot. So great work from Leakerpack, being that he is under half health and has the TCSG. 4 versus 4, 1 minute 20 left on the clock, but here comes that problem, possibly, that I spoke about for Falcons. There's still quite a lot of time left, and they are now completely contained within sight because they're a top floor, so they don't have that roam to be cleared. They don't have those extensions to be dealt with. G2 have cleared that early utility and now are knocking at the door.
They've got a good surround on, but no real like big power push coming in any given direction here. They need to kind of coalesce and get control of Catwalk as a group. Got themselves inside of IT, for example. It's Alamal stepping his way forward, but even this looks a little bit precarious. They see everything that he's doing off the back of that bulletproof camera being in front of him. Doki's the one now trying to make a move. He's got to get a kill from somewhere, Tim, and sure enough gets one. Did they know about the second on Aqua? I'm sure he will, and sure enough sees the player lying down. This could be him being pinned down here. This is looking great for G2.
Just taking a little bit of damage from that Toxic Babe there. Does back him up. Uses, I like this change in location, getting close to that breach so that he can put the shotgun into action. But as it is, he flips to the SMG and takes down Doki. TCSG gonna do the work. No, it's not. The F2 sings and takes down Leakerpack. 2 versus 1. 8 seconds left to go. Benja down. Uses with a double to hold on. Falcons take round 1. It was hard fought, but they got the job done.
That's more of what we've seen from users throughout the stage as well. A good few clutches to his name, many a multi-kill being stats up. He's really turned into the solid, reliable backline player for this team. I know Breedy's had a bit of a struggled stage at points, and in that first map that we saw here, didn't always have the best performance either, 1 and 6 at a time, but users just remains consistent. Big final 1v2 from him. We kind of alluded to it. I think G2 had a bit too much to do there. A bit too much control being taken, trying to get every angle pushing in. So once they lost a player from one spot, that was suddenly then a black hole, an exposed spot that G2 then had to try and fill in other ways. So a really good round from Falcons, and I love the fact they went aggressive in the 2 versus 3. Tried their very, very best to cut down players on G2, so it was never going to be a 3v2 round, and they got away with just that. Brilliant stuff.
Round 2. will be coming along right now, and we're going to have top floor presence coming out of Falcons because they are in control and storage rather than going down to basement. So it looks like a slow trickle down towards that basement side for them, as I imagine that will probably be their third choice. Just looking at the lineup that they've got, the Thorn continues to be present. We know how powerful she is. She did see a slight nerf recently in the refinement balancing, the limp effect. So if you're unaware, if you get hit by a Razor Bloom, you will limp for a period of time, much like you would do if you got caught in a frostbite and freed yourself. That went down from 15 seconds to 10 seconds. So a slight nerf there for Thorn. Nothing too major in all honesty. She still has a deployable shield or barbed wire, great secondary utility, and the Razor Blooms themselves are very, very effective. So Doom continuing to bring Thorn along. The Denari being picked up for the second round in a row as well. We've seen on the top floor, it's kind of, we'll call it, its architecture up on that top floor is just really well suited to the trip connectors and just being able to keep people out of connectors. Solotov manages to take down Shaiko. That's the Deimos off the board with the verticality available onto this site. That's a big start.
It is, and again, taking an instant operator offline, always a crucial one. You mentioned about the vertical, it also becomes a big part of it too. Just means that Leaky Pack is now somewhat uncontested, because typically you'd see a track go on towards a Pulse and make sure that they don't have the spot to sit below and just very freely collect information, toss C4s upwards, so on and so forth. So, a real good crucial first find to get, and a second one follows an Alamau, making a third as Doom just casually switches over to the secondary to CZ Rings, gets rid of Benja. It's a bit of a car crash round for G2, Tim, and suddenly we're starting to see that attacking isn't quite the built-up strength that it was looking like. This is the first time we've seen a team start on that attacking side and struggle.
Doom now sitting at 21 and 15 overall for the series, really starting to build some serious pace as Solotov manages to take down Doki. 1 versus 4. It's all up to Stompen, but we know what this man is capable of. We've seen him do it before. Will we see him do it again? He's just watching that storage window. He knows there's a chance that one of them here, given the man advantage for Falcons, decides to take a peek, take a fight, but they've got a really good read on where he's coming from as the Toxic Babe canister goes out. Stompen's cough will give his location away as well as a few HP.
And there's League Pack with a scanner, who knows exactly where he is as well. There's not much you can do here. Have like a bit of an ego fight over the gun, and Solotov is the one who comes out on top. I wonder if we see a tap timeout coming early here for G2, because that's 2 rounds in a row. Granted, the first one was pretty close, but 2 rounds that have gone the way of the Falcons, and that is not a fantastic start for G2.
Yeah, we've seen the tactical timeouts for G2 be particularly effective so far today. As you say, it may well be that we have one called in here to try and just put the brakes on, because things are going wrong, and they're going wrong quickly. And if they don't get a handle on it, Falcons could run away with this one before G2 even know what's happening. We are on course for having a best of 3 between these two. All 3 maps over in just about 2 hours. If you take it, you know, if you look at just pure playing time, take out the bits of, you know, the broadcast in between, we'll be at about 1 hour 50, 2 hours that this could finish in. And that is absolutely rapid.
All right, we're going to roll on, and we're going to see if they can turn it around. Otherwise, I tell you what, Tim, I didn't have it on my bigger card that we could be staring down the barrel of a G2 lower bracket run. And I imagine in a way, and it's no slight towards Falcons, if you are Fnatic sat there waiting to see who you're playing against, I imagine you probably want to play against Falcons. Only because they're a little bit of a slower, more structured team. They're therefore more easy to predict. You can devise plans against them and not just get run over like G2 do against so many other teams. I mean, that's certainly a start.
What was that about predictable, Des?
Yep, I mean, that's the second in a row where Shaiko has just been deleted far too easy on the Deimos ball operators as well. At least here G2 have got the Dockerby and they've got the Snake on side, but that can't keep happening.
Now, G2 have just switched off a little bit. This is, you know, they're not performing to the same level as they were on Consulate, not having any idea that Users was in a position ready to run out there, just, you know, basically strafing out into it, giving him the opportunity, and it's one of the easiest kills he's going to get all day. And Shaiko's got to be sat there kicking himself, because, like you say, that is some serious utility lost. With the Dockerby on side as well, it is a real combo of operators that you can use together. Snake on top of it all. You know, you could have made things so oppressive for Falcons, but with Alamau and the Snake now taken out as well, you've basically lost your cutting edge.
Well, at least something. One coming back for them. Still a 3 versus 4. They've got to recover somehow, though. And given you've lost 2 of those 3 Intel operators, this is not going to look pretty from here on out. I doubt Benja really gets a chance to even make use of the verticals unless we see the remaining players and Falcons completely fall back. But looking at them now, all 3 floors have been spread across by all of them. They control the inside of labs right now. G2 barely have a foot in. It ain't looking pretty. I know I keep on saying it, but it really ain't.
Defense is the better side of Labs for Falcons, at least, if we look historically. The last 3 times they've played it, 62% defensive win rate, only 52% on the attack. But what does that tell you? They can expect 3 rounds on the attack if we go by the numbers, which means if they can get themselves a 4-2 split here, they would hope that it would be enough to get them over the line. But as we've said, on any given game day, we never know what teams are going to do. It's a little bit too easy. Solotov just gives himself away. Doki picks up 3 day as well. We've just got a switcheroo. As I say, you never know on any given game day what teams are going to do.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. What? So they win a 3 versus 4 without losing a single player. I'm sorry. That is a little bit of a bottle by Falcons. You should not be losing in that position, but arguably being punished for being too spread around the map, and G2 managing to isolate a couple of kills, punish players by themselves. There's no trade to secure. Falcons would be kicking themselves for letting that one slip.
Definitely. There was a 3-0 on the cards there. That was absolutely possible for them. I'd like to, as a round, I'll go back and watch again later from all perspectives and try and see exactly what has gone wrong there for Falcons. How have G2 been able to catch them out? I think a lack of intel is part of it. Can be difficult on the defense. Of course, you don't have the drones. You don't necessarily have the means by which, if those default cameras have been taken out, to you know, get that information. But just the way that Solotov ran, gave himself away, here it is, you know, just completely unaware of Benja's position on that window, and then no real reaction to it. Users just caught, stood in the middle of garage. Yeah, Falcons just switched off for a little bit there.
Well, it's been G2 that switched off the first 2 rounds, and now it's Falcons' turn, I guess, to come things in reverse.
Bomb located by attackers.
I don't know what to say, really. Will that 1 round prove to be definitive later? It could well be. G2 have definitely got to shake themselves up, though, because it hasn't been the cleanest, as we said. Let's see how they do now that we enter that second quarter, where we'll play through the same 3-site rotation, starting up here with the top floor, Tim.
Wall reinforced.
Very good defense from Falcons last time around, but it came down to a 1v1 at the end. But ultimately, sorry, 1v2 for users. But yeah, Falcons, they'd just taken enough away from G2 by that point, you felt. They'd left them in a position where they just had to kind of push through that connector breach, and it was an easy mop-up for users at the end of it. So G2 want to see them stretch Falcons a little bit further this time, keep themselves, if they'd have had, you know, one other person left alive, or even one person in a different location, so they weren't pushing from that same side, I think they'd have won that first round. So G2 need to make sure, A, they've got a plan to deal with these trip connectors, because they held them at bay for ages last time, and also that they maintain positions on opposite sides of the map to stretch the defense.
That's what they did a little bit before, then they just found themselves being punished before eventually they came together inside of Electric and had the frozen off, so things down at least a little bit. But again, last time they were very spread. They had like Doki coming up catwalk, Alamal through IT. We had one coming in through meeting. I think it was Benja. It was just a little bit all over the place, and that's okay. It's a fine way to attack in towards this. But I feel they're the ones who've got to change a bit here, because they've already shown that that attack doesn't work out too effectively for them. So we will see. Granted, it did come quite close last time around, down to the 1 versus 2, which we saw users come out on top of against Benja and Alamal. Maybe G2 do think, actually, you know what? It was all right last time. We haven't got to change too much. Just do it again, and we'll come out on top this time. We'll see.
You know the definition of insanity. Doing the same thing and expecting different results. User's going to peek around this corner. He's just going to dump out the toxic babe canister, slow things up. There's not really anybody pushing onto that warehouse door. Instead, the push was coming from underneath, but June was fully aware. Takes down Doki, gives Falcons another entry. 3 out of 4 now have gone in favour of Falcons. How about this? G2 are just walking on into sight. Benja manages to get a double. He has been such a shining light light for G2 in this series so far. Shaiko is able to get it going on the back while Benji got another, making it 3 in the round. And it is up to June, moving his way back in. 1 versus 4. He's had a hell of a game so far, but surely this is going to be a step too far in round 4.
Well, plant's gone down, and this feels a bit unrecoverable for June. Ben just in a gapped him, and he has punished them for it. I didn't quite see if there was someone inside IT door there, making sure that he was clear to jump in. No one would be able to swing on towards it without dying, for example, but I can only imagine there wasn't. Otherwise, they probably would have seen one of the 2 players that was sat on bomb chassis. Either way, brilliant opportunity spotting. It's what G2 do well. It's what Falcons have also done at points throughout this series, and it's going to hand them around here. And despite it not looking that way for 2 rounds, Tim, it'll bring us up to 2 apiece.
June manages to get one. Shaiko closes it out with the trade, and G2, as you say, hold on to the plant and level things out 2-2. And you've got to say that G2, I think, are the better off for that scoreline. The way that things have gone so far, it feels like Falcons have been in the driving seat. They've been the one controlling the tempo, but G2 somehow have managed to hold on to their coattails and keep themselves in this one. And it's largely on the back of Benja, to be honest. He's 6-2. I think he may be 8-2 after that round, 9-2 actually, because it was triple in the round. So he's having an absolutely phenomenal map. He's playing lights out at the minute, and it is really keeping his team in this one.
Like I say, there's no real control there, I suppose. More the Grim Bees and anything else, giving him a little bit of info, a little bit of cover. But in for a 3. And sometimes it relies on the hero play. You heard the desk at the very start of the show in our pre-show speaking about the rookies and how things have been going across the players like Smith, for example, how well they've been playing. But I think Benji, although obviously not really a rookie, has obviously returned after a long time for playing with SSG over in NA. And many, I think, looked at him when he came back over and was like, does this really make sense? He's been here once. We've already seen it not work out once. It's why he left. Why is he coming back? And I think it comes down to the fact that he's built up so much experience in NA. It's not that he wasn't a good player before. He absolutely was. But you're seeing a real refinement to his play as the stage has gone on, I think.
I'd agree, and I think that comes from, just time with the team and fitting into that role, and the team understanding each other better, and putting Benja in positions to win, and that is what he loves to do and what he continues to do so far. As I said, 9-2 inside of this map, 23-15 overall for the series. I think we were on a count of 4 successful Nitro kills for Benja as well. And I often talk about utility and how mastering that utility is an important part of mastering an operator. Something else, for you to learn at home is if you're going to commit into an operator, say you're going to commit into that Valkyrie, you better get good with your Nitros. You better be able to judge that throw distance. You better be able to find those enemies up above you, because that is how you become truly great on an operator, is being able to squeeze every little bit of value out of them. And that's something that Benja has done fantastically well so far today. We see him doing it now with the Twitch drone, raining around. He knows exactly where all those default cams are. He knows exactly where the util is that he's playing for. Takes out as much as he can, and then he's great with the F2 as well. So he's really working on every element of those operators.
Well, at least forced his army back and probably take out a keeper on the way through, but that's why the smoke comes out in response. Good cover from Muses to make sure his teammate is safe, at least for now. Stomping working his way through on the snake downstairs at the same time. Probably trying to find someone playing underneath with the C4. I'm looking in towards June there, and of course in towards Leaky Fat, both trying to give cover to those upstairs and provide information. So if he can get in there and get rid of 1 or 2 of those, that is going to be mega for Stomping.
Just looking to get Alam out in through the window on the blitz, but I was just going to say he's being held up there by the trip connector for the time being. Throws it in the utility to clear that out, and that gives him access into electrical. At least Soliton radar scan will give the exact position away for Stomp, and he doesn't necessarily want to get too aggressive here because he's going to be ahead of his team if he does. They are not yet ready to start pushing on in and taking control of site. He's concerned about the corridor out behind him, knows that that's clear now, and he's likely to just try and hold his position until they get into the spots they need to be in above, and that is a big start for G2.
Kind of baited Solotov into towards the swing, and Shaiko has woken up to him. It was a slow start for him, but he's hit 3 in the round, and that is one way to behead the beast that is Falcons. A 4 versus 2, make it a 5v1 technically because Benja's on his arse, and sure enough, it's a flawless round, Tim. G2 really waking up across these last 3.
Yeah, it looked like Falcons. They came in, they had the first 2 rounds, and they were dominant. They were well on top of things. And I thought, wow, you know, I looked at G2's history on Nighthaven Labs. They're 0-2. They've lost it to Black Dragons and Shopify Rebellion, both at 6 Invitational. We haven't seen them play it since. So I thought, you know, right, okay, Falcons go 2-0. G2 might just actually struggle to get this one done. We were talking about the possibility of having G2 in the lower bracket. But then, as I said, each game in itself is these little kind of micro bubbles of momentum, and G2 have found theirs right now, and they are milking every bit of value that they can out of it. 3 rounds in a row. If they can take a 4-2 half and move on to the defense, you've got to say that it is then advantage G2.
Who had a 4-2 G2 half on their bingo card after seeing Falcons go up 2-0? Not me.
Not me.
Absolutely not. Really thought we'd see Falcons run away with that half, and it'd be a very tough challenge for G2 to claw it back, but they've shown real resilience after round 2 and have only got better as the rounds have gone by. This could prove to be a bit of a car crash for Falcons if G2 do manage to snatch away this last round. It is down in the basement. And imagine once again, we're going to see a lot of cover across all of the map. Last time they did this round, they did kind of get sliced up by G2 and punished for being so spread, even though it was a 4v3 for Falcons. So I do want to see Falcons being really careful here about just how much of the map they tried to control. There is a lot of labs that you've got to control, and G2 may just say, forget about that, isolate players, go direct towards site. Lots of trouble potentially Falcons could face.
Straight away on the back of that breach. I like that aggression coming out from G2, just taking ground as soon as it is available to them. Soliton Radar says that he is clear to move forward, will do so. Gets caught out by that FNAT though. A little bit of danger there for Benja, but no damage done. He knows that there's somebody inside here and peeks it perfectly. Taking down Breeder, 5 versus 4. G2, I'm wondering where's Doki. Is there an opportunity to get this diffuser down? Maybe not, as Solotov clears outside, but Stompen finds Doom, 4 versus 3.
Got to know he's on the window, and sure enough, just deletes him. Nothing that he can do about it. Alamal removed. A strong map earlier, 0-5 on this one, not super ideal, but it's a 3v3 inside the round with 2 minutes still to play, Tim. G2 have come at breakneck speed. They've kind of got away with a surprise attack, and maybe now Falcons are going to start stabilizing at least a little bit. They still don't have site control though.
The decision to be made for G2 here, there's only Solotov inside a site at the minute. He's actually in EXO, so he's not directly inside. If they can get the kill onto him, the rest are inside of storage. As it is, G2 wait for them to try and get back to site and take them out as they do, but there's not really, you can't defend the whole site from storage, and G2, I just wonder if Benja had managed to keep himself alive, that diffuser could definitely be down by now, but 2 versus 2, and the twists and turns continue in round 6.
He's gonna that's the shot from Shaiko. Said he was struggling, he must have heard me, because now he's up to 7-3 after starting out 0-3. 1 more to go. Has to track on towards Juices, and Nade's going to force him out, and Shaiko just makes it look easy. What a weird back to front round, because it ended with G2 having the vertical control after it was the reverse about 30 seconds prior, and then Shaiko just does his thing at the end. But well played by Benja. He really opened that one up for the team.
Yeah, I love the bounce back from G2 there. 4 rounds in a row, phenomenal stuff.
Well, let's see what our studio think about that one. And boys, what'd you make of it?
From G2 there, but at the start of it though, we know that G2 were going to do these split takes, these attacks there, and there was one essential thing going wrong with them at the start of these very first few rounds.
Yeah, I think so. And this game's been such a good tactical arm wrestle between these two teams, and it starts off with Falcons actually playing really well. The first thing that they abuse is going to be entry kills onto Shaiko. They get 3 of them, and then here's what they do. Look at this. They abuse the fact that G2 will go split. One's catwalk, one's IT, one's walking in from connector. What do? They smoke the catwalk. They then get aggressive from the catwalk, and look at the Denari traps up on the connector side. So they get the kill catwalk, relieve that pressure, go condense, go tight to each other, and then these 2 players from G2, they have to walk in through the Denari traps late on time, and basically this was just Falcons abusing the fact that they could have all of the utility available to them. They win, and they get out the clutch.
And now let's take a look at the response from G2. And in my opinion, it has to do with the bans. If you think all the way back on Consulate, what happened? The bans on Consulate were Dokaib and Solid Snake. Here, what do Falcons do? They ban Hard Reachers. But that's not an issue for G2. Look at that last round. Look at that lineup. Look at what G2 has been bringing. Dokaib, Lion, Grim, Deimos, every crowd control operator that are basically broken right now in the meta, that helps them play in split, trying to isolate the gunfight. Benja right now is the main stakeholder of that, but Shaiko as well on the demos. The two of them extremely deadly, Jack, especially in the entry department.
It got so much better once they started getting rid of the shields, in all honesty. Once they started unifying behind like that lineup that you just said, the Dokkaebi, the Lion,
That 1v1 by
the Grim, the Deimos, yeah. And once you start playing to finding the gaps and using all of the operators available to you to find the gaps, that's when G2 started having success. Like I said, it was an absolute arm wrestle. G2 were finding it hard right at the very start because Falcons were playing for that split, and then G2 really, really abused the operators available.
If you think attack or defense favored, who comes out winning this first half in your opinion?
I don't think any side is favored, exactly because of what Jack has just said, in the sense that it's a back and forth. It's a arm wrestle.
take that.
It's a tactical arm wrestle. And that's what is obvious to me, is that I don't think it's attacker or defender sided. I think that whoever figures out who can counter the other better is really going to be winning, because it's basically back and forth between the two of them.
So there's no clear winner of the first half then?
G2 is the winner. Obviously, they're 4-2. They found the perfect solution. Falcons, they haven't problem solved the crowd control operators.
The only reason that I would also say G2 is the winner is purely the scoreboard pressure. We're in map 3. G2 now only need 4 rounds. Falcons, unless we go to overtime, we're going to need 5 out of the next 6 rounds to get it done in regulation.
And generally, the momentum has carried on in all of the previous maps.
Ooh, I like it. The excitement is rising, though. It's only a few more rounds until we find out our very first qualified team to EWC.
Thank you very much, guys. We saw Monty being a bit of a frustration point for them back on Club Tim, so I'm not wholly surprised to see it taken away here.
I mean, it's always, you know, you're always going to get value out of it, aren't you, if you take a Monty ban, because especially with on the, you know, sorry, not on the other way around, especially with Breeder on the other side, you know that he's going to love to play an operator like that. We've seen it already causing problems. It was actually Leakerfact on Clubhouse who had a great Monty round, and so yeah, I think it just removes that element of frustration, especially if you're trying to hold somewhere like Catwalk. It's not too dissimilar from Catwalk on Clubhouse, and using those shields to bully positions like that can be really, really powerful. Something like the Blackbeard, while still good, is not always as effective as the Monty in that position.
All right, let's see how the second half goes, because I have a feeling, Tim, we are not in for a straight and narrow close for one of these two teams. I think it is going to be a bit of a bloodbath, a barn burner, as we call it when a map tends to go all the way. Overtime would not shock me. Again, that reminder of what they're playing for, in case you're tuning in here and aren't sure. It is that spot at EWC. The loser does get a second chance in our lower bracket, where if they win down there, they also qualify. But fair to say, Tim, you want it done here and now.
You do. You don't want to be messing about with it. You don't want it dragging on. I think this is a particularly important round. Forget about round 9. I'm going in on round 7 this time. If G2 get this on a 5-2 up, you start looking at it thinking this defensive machine is then just going to continue rolling. As it is, IT getting opened up. Or not, because we see the mirror window opened up, allowed to stay on the board because of the Tubarão and Bandit bans. So you were hoping to get the walls open quicker, were you? Well, it hasn't worked, because the mirror that you didn't ban away has been used to prevent that wall being opened up.
Dodged away from the C4s, used nades to force a little bit of space. Having where the spot they're into now is not about to be in at all. And as the pressure starts to come out, gonna knock that away and try and destroy the top part. Might well get away with it. Nope. That has gone off Tim, and now that means a great line of sight all the way through sight. Round pillar itself coming in from this side. That's a lot of pressure, but no one right now working on towards IT. They're very much focused on trying to push in from Connector and over towards Aqua, and that's all they've really got to work with.
Leakerfact's the one to watch at the minute. He's over on that Aqua side, just sat on the roof at the minute, and as they get a man advantage, there's every possibility that he's going to drop down, throw himself into the action, and could cause a real problem. But as he comes in, Benjamin misses his opportunity, does it? Continues working with the shotgun, can't find the man, and loses his life as well. Kill after kill comes in for Falcons, and the net is closing. It's all up to that man. Shaiko gets one, can't find a second. It's going to be Falcons taking a very important round 7 to bring themselves back within 1 round.
All right, like I say, I get a feeling this game ain't going to be clear-cut. It's not going to be a straight run to the finish for G2. It's going to be a barn burner, and that's the start of 1. The thing is, you saw how the first half went. It took a couple of rounds to really see G2 acclimate and figure out how things were going. Yes, we've now seen Falcons come out starting strong. It could yet be the same case again for G2 as the key thing I'll stress. So
I want to see how the first 3 rounds go. We'll then have a good idea as to which way this game is starting to lean. If one of the teams is on 6 by the end of round 9, well, and it couldn't really be G2 to be fair, but if they get themselves up to 6 across the next couple, I do then feel very, very nervous for Falcons. But if they can keep themselves in lockstep, win this next round, whoever wins round 9, don't think it's really going to matter all that much. It needs to be a Falcons round win here, though, as we go to control and storage for round number 8.
Attackers have discovered the
So
location.
top
of a
floor
bomb.
is going to be the battleground once again. Falcons taking over it phenomenally well last time around. It was the site, and there's absolutely nothing G2 could do to hold on. If anything, it's going to be more difficult this time around because they're going to have less utility. Because although not a ton of utilities expended on this site, there will still be some in and around the site, which gives them effectively less to hold on to that top floor, less to play behind. We can see there things like the Razor Blooms being deployed on that mid-level rather than all up on the top floor. So G2, how can you do this better? Which gunfights can you win? Deployable shield is going to go down towards Aqua just to give them a little bit of protection from that side at least. But straight away again, Falcons looking to play with a little bit of confidence that last round might have just bought them.
Just a little bit at least anyway, but then beyond 2 shields as well now going to be a bit of a frustration point. So we spoke about it a bit back on club. Do we see a second shield ban come through in round 9? Very likely, especially if we see the Blitz and the Blackbeard continuing to be a real frustration point for G2 as we step through these next couple of rounds. Got the IT floor being ripped up here. Often a crucial one, not to always have to play inside of that IT itself, but getting that floor opened up means it's not safe for the defenders to sit happily underneath it and look to try and deny a plant. Just by virtue of it being open, it's what we call phantom pressure. You know, there might not be someone at that open window or that open doorway, but there could be, and so you always have to pay respect to it. It's a similar thing with the vertical.
Yeah, just start softening up that pillar plant spot as well, because you know now that there's nobody going to play up above. We've got users on the Thatcher. I was just going to say that to me screams that they are going to look to go in for the plant inside a pillar, and that's why the Thatcher is there looking to catch out any nitros that might be thrown in. It's a good way of dealing with the planter in that position, but for the time being, Falcons just take a backward step and decide that there is more utility to be dealt with. That is a heavy use of utility there. We know how valuable those Grimby canisters are, and one just given away there to deal with the trip connector. Breeder is in, manages to get up in the face of Stomp and finds one. Can he get another? Yes, he can. Doki taken down. It was important timing from Breeder, but he got it just right. Make it 3. He is cleaning house with the shield right now. This could be a blitz. Asters!
Ghost points out he was 0 and 6 before this, by the way, but has come out with some real heroics and got his team at 4K in the round, and all but guarantees that this one is theirs for the taking. Here he goes again. He wants the ace, Tim, and sure enough, what he wants, he gets. That's pre-day for you. 5 in the round, and Falcons pull square.
Telling you now, it's not often that we see an ace from a shield operator as well. All of those hit with the pistol. Beautiful stuff from Breeder, and that gets Falcons nice and level. 4-4, and G2, they had 4 rounds in a row from round 3 to round 6 on the attack. Looks like they can't defend for love nor money at the minute, Des.
It's worrying, isn't it? Yeah, again, I want to wait and see how the next one goes, because that'll be the tiebreaker. Who moves in the lead? If Falcons win 3 attacks in a row,
Attackers are active.
oh, Spaghetti-O, it will not be pretty for G2. If they can win this next one and show that actually there's still some fight, then good heavens, this could honestly be going either way. But I wouldn't be surprised, like I said, if we see one of those shields being taken away from them after the next round.
I would expect so, but I've said this before, haven't I? What good does it do you? What good does it do you at this point? You've not committed to it fully. And if you're going to go for the shield span and you want that easier second half of your defense, you've got to commit to it fully. Because if they do take away the Blitz, they'll play the Blackbeard. If they take away the Blackbeard, they'll play the Blitz. And so there is still going to be an option. G2, I think, need to get comfortable with the fact that they are going to be dealing with shields one way or another in at least some of the remaining rounds here. We do see June pick away from the Blackbeard this time, goes on to the Deimos instead. So it's going to be more of the kind of heavy intel lineup, the Dockerby, the Deimos, the serious disruption coming out of Falcons.
All right, let's see what Falcons bring to this round then. For G2, as we sort of said, there is a bit of recovery work needed. The clash may well be a bit of a helping hand for them. Can keep the shield somewhat suppressed, which is why on the Falcon side, during that prep phase, they've taken away from shields entirely, said, look, forget about it. We don't want to play that into the clash. We'll have to find a different way to help deal with that, which is why I partly think Solotov's gone towards Nomad. Now, normally would be used to pushing towards Catwalk. That's not ideal, Doki. Just a couple of shots through the floor, and he's got a freebie.
A really nice angle found by Doom, though. They're not always easy, especially at range and especially on such an angle. A lot of the Deimos kills that we see vertically will be sort of directly above or directly below, so really nice from him. Stomper needs to make sure he's cautious and conscious of that distance that he is putting between him and the attackers this time around. He doesn't have a shield to deal with, as you've said. Falcons picked away from that, but if he allows them, we saw it on Clubhouse, to get too close, that's when the clash is easily dealt with. Just looking at the options that Falcons have at the minute to deal with that. The air jabs, there's 2 of them left, so if Solotov does keep at least one of those in pocket, he will be able to assist in dealing with the clash currently positioned inside of Electrical, but this is another way of dealing with it, and it's no surprise to see Stomper moving back with 1 on Electrical Window and 1 on Connector Breach. It leaves him exposing his back to somebody, and he needs to be careful of that.
Salamar waiting for here. Maybe waiting a little bit too long, you might argue. He's waiting at the bottom with the C4 in hand, so it just screams that they're looking to make use of him. But I think in a 5 versus 3, his options may be starting to run very thin on just how much he can get away with. Can't really afford to spend too much time on the downstairs, will be the main concern, I suspect. And as you've seen, there's a call on towards Shaiko, there's a track on towards Stomping. The pair of them not having a great time here. And get yourself posted up Stomping on the exact spot where you just pulled out that 1 versus 2 earlier. That'll protect one angle, but you're still got to be respectful of the Deimos.
Only 1 nade left to deal with the clash, and that is currently underneath. Capitao bolts are going to prevent him playing his shield for the time being, at least, and the kill will come in. 1 versus 5 now. Shaiko has been in this position before. He didn't win it last time. Can he pull it out of the bag this time? Taken out by a track from Deimos, and that is going to be Falcons now taking the lead. 5-4, 3 rounds in a row. G2 on the ropes, taking body blows and in serious trouble.
Yeah, at this point, I'm now concerned. We've had those 3 rounds. Will a single ban drastically alter this? I don't think so. They've got a lot of work they need to be doing, and a single ban won't turn it around. Falcons are looking red hot on the attack of Labs. I'm a bit worried for G2, Tim, that this might not be the straight shoot for EWC they were hoping for. Falcons will make it there, which feels somewhat like the narrative demands it. Falcons as an organization, always one of the best represented at EWC. It'd be strange not to see them there. But G2 will go straight into attack timeout as well. Need a little bit of extra time here to collect their thoughts, as well as the operator ban to try and turn this around.
No surprises that Romalio decides now is the time. I do prefer kind of an earlier tactical timeout to a late one, and I'd still class this as early enough. You're not facing match point. That's what I don't like, the tactical timeouts necessarily, where you're facing match point, especially if you've got, if it's 6-5, that's not the end of the world. The coach comes in, give you a very clear blueprint for round 12 and gets you to overtime. Absolutely fine. I think when it's like 6-3, 6-4, you've left it a little bit too late, because you can't necessarily give a clear blueprint for multiple rounds in that way. So I like this from Romalio, just giving himself time to affect things in the game before they reach that kind of point of no return. But right now, Falcons on the attack just look like a different beast. They are in that pocket of form, and they just need to keep it rolling. It's been absolutely brilliant. G2 did take away the blitz, which you suggested may be the case. They're still going to have the Blackbeard to face if Falcons want to bring a shield along. Doom has already picked it up. As I say, I think a lack of commitment to the shield ban sometimes can hurt you. Granted, it means they don't have to deal with Monty or Blitz, so that's a good thing. But it is not going to remove the problem, at least not in totality.
All right, time to turn it around, G2. As I said, I thought we might see the Blitz come on through. We've seen this again from them before as well. It's the thing against Falcons is you'll ban away the Monty and the Blitz. I think because you're more worried about how hard they lean one way or the other. We've seen how effective Breed is with both of those operators. A Blackbeard, you know they're going to play it. We've seen Yusuf play it a whole bunch before. Doom, of course, has been play it a few times today as well. Although it's still annoying, I would argue it's not as oppressive as a Blitz. Blitz will get right up in your face and really stress you out and cause you problems. A Blackbeard somewhat prefers more to be, I guess, a nuisance in the room until he drops his shield down, at which time you can quite easily challenge him. A Blitz can flash you for free. And so I think there's more of a willingness to play against a Blackbeard, as annoying as he still is.
Breach is going to be coming on through. That's going to be Garage opened up at least, which is going to reduce the rotation opportunities. It is a defense of basement this time around for G2. We're going to see now straight away towards... Needs to be cautious here. The wall, Animus wall has been left soft. There's nobody actually in there to be... I was going to say it gives you the option to shoot anything off the wall. If there's a Selma gets applied to that soft wall, you just shoot it off. But there's not going to be anybody in there to do that. So I think we're going to see both Animus and Double Wall opened up without too much of a problem now that the work has been done by Solotov on the Twitch.
That's only the one, of course, as well. I mean, main breach execute doesn't really look to be the game plan, given the line of operators they've got. It's much more instead leaning in towards getting vertical control, forcing roamers back. That's why you have things like the Dockerby and the Ram on side. If we were looking towards site, I would expect to see like a Glass being brought along, to be honest with you. So yes, it's in a spot where they're looking and thinking about it. But I think it's more off the back of the verticals being opened up. So we'll keep an eye on Usage, really. He's the one to keep to watch out for and where those Ram gadgets go down. And equally, who then plays on the vertical. Here we go.
That is going to be opened up from rooftop. As we have seen. That is unfortunate. The throw is bad. And repeat, the throw is bad on the Boogie drone, but the kill is not. The Solotov manages to pick up the entry onto Shaiko. That's going to be every attacking entry going in favour of Falcons, by the way, in this second half. That is now 4 in a row. G2 just unable to win any kind of micro part of this game. Benja managing to pick up Leak Effect. That's the trade, but takes a bunch of damage, as has Alamau as well. So 4 versus 3 as June manages to finish the kill onto the Kaid, and that's going to be Falcons now starting to take a little bit of ground. But are they aware of Dorky up on the top floor roaming around?
Well, last time they were aware of someone being off roaming, Tim, they just said, let's just smash in towards site and not worry about it. But here we go. There's the punish. And that is the danger of a shield. It just soaks away attention for long enough for you to get a freebie. Solotov hits 3 in the round, a 4v1. Stomping left all alone. It feels to me, Tim, like Falcons will be going up 6-4 and are no doubt on their way to wrapping things up here on Labs.
Yeah, we've had a real swing in terms of this game. Plant is going down. That's going to be the round over as Stu manages to finish Sompen with a shield smash. But we said at the beginning, and I stand by this, you know, it didn't look like on console that the map choice was the defining factor. G2 were just playing really well as a team. They were working together, they were creating crossfires, they were moving as one, and they were winning all of their gunfights. It came down more to those players that were in the map rather than the map that the players were on. And I feel like we've seen that slowly shift as this one has gone on. And right now we're finding ourselves, don't get me wrong, Falcons are playing very well, but we're finding ourselves on a map where it is clear that the team far more comfortable on this map, Falcons in this case, are the ones that are just winning round after round now. G2, they look lost at sea.
They do, don't they? They just look completely unable to deal with the attacks coming out of Falcons right now. And it's strange because it does hark back to a little bit what we saw on Club. A lot of it is coming down to Falcons showing a little bit more beams than maybe we've been used to historically. And I think a lot of that is being enabled by the shields. You know, yes, back on Club, things like the Monty was a little bit of a frustration point, but it was slow and it was composed. At least you had no idea it was coming. Here with the Blackbeard, it's a similar thing. You know that it's coming, but it's up in your face, distracting you and pulling attention. All it requires is a second player to follow in the shield and get kills. It's exactly what G2 are doing back on map 1 with shields as well. So both teams kind of going like for like in some of the play styles they've employed, but both look pretty unable to deal with the other's attacking capabilities.
Could be the final prep phase for G2 if they are not able to stop the freight train that is Falcons from rolling on over the top of the momentum would suggest. And that's the likely outcome here. Garage wall is going to be open, so that's going to stop the rotation. Storage and control is the site of choice for G2 to try and hold on here. They lost this back in round 8. It was, like all the others, fairly comfortable for Falcons. Let's see if G2 can just win the first minute of this, the first minute and a half, by getting the entry kill. The last 4 have gone against them. Give yourselves a chance.
I just worry that they've really struggled on the entry this half as well. We were speaking about it a little bit, but every single entry has gone the way of Falcons. Stomping, falling foul twice, Doki another, Shaiko another. It's not just one player that's been falling foul, as I kind of pointed out, 3 separate ones. However, redeeming himself a little bit here is Shaiko, who was the victim on the entry in the previous round. Maybe starts to give his team a bit of a fighting chance.
Yep, great start for G2. That's what we were asking for. Now use that man advantage. You can keep yourself up on that top floor for longer. You don't need to start giving space up. You don't need to start worrying about getting yourself back in towards site. You've just bought yourself a little bit of freedom with that entry kill. Double down, find another. Don't allow Falcons to pin you back to get a kill and to level things up. 1 minute 20 left on the clock. Falcons now in control of the top floor for the most part. Shaiko is still on catwalk. Falcons are going to move on a little bit, try to get themselves downstairs and start establishing towards site, I think, in a moment.
Ooh. Well, not like this.
Exactly like this.
You've had the entry and Leaky Patch just walked up and taken 2 scalps for free. The man's had 2 kills in the prime out. Benja now also going low. A shield in his face. That'll get finished off too. G2, they've been punished out of the roam, Tim. And what could have been a chance for them to hold on is now falling by the wayside. 4v2, but only 40 seconds to play.
G2 can only blame themselves here. They've had the opportunity to win this round. They had the man advantage, the entry. They were able to start burning that clock down a little bit, but Falcons, yet again, as they have done consistently throughout Nighthaven Labs, have found a way, have found an answer, have found it difficult, or have at least found a way to make life difficult for G2. Razorblade goes off, just going to push the shield back a little bit, but
Easy.
It's going to be Doki downed. 3 versus 1. Plant going down. It's all up to that man Shaiko against his old teammates. Can he do anything to keep G2 in it? With a Blackbeard in his face, it looks like probably not. He's able to find that kill, goes outside, gets one, can't get the third. Users just rescuing Falcons from what looked like a tough spot and gets the map done. They will qualify first from EML into the EWC.